Tampa wins it. They go to shoot it. That's blocked. Sundqvist gets to it. They chip it to center, and that'll do it. Bring up the Zamboni. A 5-0 shutout win for the St. Louis Blues. They've won 3 in a row and now go to the West Coast on a streak.
Let's get nasty on a Wednesday, and I'm sure this time. It's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. Brandon Kiley hanging out for another hour. BK, appreciate you putting in another hour with us, man.
Absolutely. Thrilled to be here.
So Jamie Rivers is traveling, so no Jamie Rivers today. BK is with us for the first hour of the show. Marsh and I got you covered from 3 to 4, and then Dan McLaughlin will take over for 4 to 6. So Danny Mac will be with us final 2 hours of the show. But we appreciate you joining us, man. Last night was a lot of fun. Didn't start off great. You had a lot of turnovers early on. Lightning had plenty of opportunities to make that a 1 or 2-0 game, but Jordan Binnington was absolutely disgusting again. 30 saves. Was it the 13th shutout for him now for the career? Binnington was absolutely sensational last night. We can dive off into Jordan Kyrou, his multiple goals. Torrey Krug had himself one hell of a night. Jacob Verana found the back of the net as well. But this discussion, in my opinion, starts with Jordan Binnington.
It does. He's been the biggest change, and the goal suppression has been the biggest change from last year to this year. We were talking about this a little bit earlier today, Stoltz, and I understand if you're wondering right now, like, am I about to buy into a team that is just going to do to me this year what they did to me last year? Where last year they get off to the 3 wins early on, lose 8 straight, and then they have the 7-game winning streak where you're like, okay, maybe the 8 losses was the outlier, and the winning early, the winning lately has been the real version of the St. Louis Blues. Can I buy in? Obviously, the answer was no last year. It was all fool's gold, and it was a team that was built on a poor foundation, and eventually it all sank, and we know how that story ended. I think this year the difference is what you're talking about with Binnington and the defensive structure in general. You can win with run prevention in baseball. You can win with goal prevention in hockey. It's not fun. It's not the most enjoyable way to watch a baseball game or a hockey game, but the Cardinals have been doing this for 15 years before it all blew up in their faces.
Yeah.
The Blues have been doing this for 15 years before, again, last year, it blew up in their faces. This is the way this team wants to win. And what we're seeing now is that the offense is starting to come to fruition again. When that happens, man, this is a team that can be better than I gave them credit for going into the season.
And you talked about defensively. I was having a conversation with my buddy last night about some of the defensemen, how they're not standing out this year in terms of, like, you just don't notice them. And that's a good thing because they're not getting beat outside. You know, they're not in the wrong places at the wrong time. They're doing a great job. Colton Parayko stepping up in the play, notices that there's a man that fell down in the defensive zone and steps up, makes a great play, makes it 1-0. And I think that's the kind of momentum that this team needs. Like you talked about, fans buying in. I think the team is bought in as well. We talked about that yesterday.
Well, Jordan Binnington, funny you say that. Jordan Binnington mentioned it twice last night. Once on the Valley Sports Midwest broadcast with our guy Jamie Rivers, and then once again in the locker room. This is what Binner said about buy-in, and I want to go back to something that BK said here in a second, but this is what Binnington said, and again, he said it multiple times.
It's a team, that you're proud to be a part of. I think it's been a month or two of just working hard and buying in, and it's nice to see some results coming our way, and we're just, staying patient and playing together and trusting the system, and then we get rewarded.
Guys, I'm not kicking last year's team while it's down. That team's dead. But if we're going to do the autopsy, on last year's team, I think one of the things that we found out, and one of the things that Doug Armstrong pointed out, was that team had too many players on one-year contracts. Too much uncertainty. And I wonder if it had kind of a trickle-down effect when it comes to the team-building aspect of it. Maybe not early on. Maybe it took some of those losing streaks early on for guys to start saying, I wonder if I'm going to be here. I wonder if I need to do a little bit more, press it a little bit more, and play outside of the system. So this year, Doug Armstrong eliminated that. He traded away Ryan O'Reilly last year. Somebody that's not a problem, obviously. He was a captain for you, but his contract was expiring. So you made the right move to trade Ryan O'Reilly and Ivan Barbashev and Vladimir Tarasenko and who else am I missing? Noel Chari. He traded those guys away. He's got players on long-term contracts, which can be a hindrance. But he's got guys that are set. They know they're going to be here. And I think when Jordan Binnington says you have got buy-in, you got guys that are blocking shots in key moments, these guys know that they're going to be committed to the Blues, and the Blues have already committed to them. And I think you can play more into that. Okay, what are we doing here? What's the system? Yep, all right. Okay, now we're getting results? I like these results. Now I can buy in a lot more. I think that's what we're seeing right now.
I think there's a lot of that, and I think you also have to point to, there's guys on one-year contracts right now on this team, but it's different in terms of who they are.
Right.
Jakub Vrana is on a one-year contract.
Yeah.
Kasperi Kapanen is on a one-year contract here. They don't know what their futures are going to hold. They're trying to play their way into whatever their next deals are. The difference is last year it was Ryan O'Reilly, Vladimir Tarasenko, Ivan Barbashev. These were guys that were critical pieces of a Stanley Cup winner here. They're not the types of players that are trying to make their way back into the good graces of the NHL the way that a Vrana or a Kapanen are. Those guys have already played for 3 teams in their respective NHL careers. They're on round 3 of trying to figure this thing out. Tarasenko was a hero here in St. Louis who was on the cover of a video game for this team wearing this team's jersey. Ryan O'Reilly was a Stanley Cup winner, Conn Smythe winner here. And they're wondering about their future. And at the same time that they're wondering about their future, I think the team was wondering, okay, what's the future for those guys?
Yeah.
Are they going to be a part of what we're doing here?
How is my role going to expand?
Exactly. And so you've got this push and pull all year long of who are we stylistically? Who's going to be here long term? What exactly is Blues hockey now? So it almost became, when we talked about it a lot last year, this identity crisis of not knowing who you were or where you were going. This year, the Blues seem to know exactly who they are. It's not always, again, fun to watch. I didn't enjoy watching this team the first 8 games of the season. I thought it was boring, bland, vanilla hockey. But it worked. It's gotten them to where they are, and they built that foundation up early on, so now you can see them actually putting it together in a way that is meaningful. So I don't know where this is going to go, man. I don't know if this is a playoff team. I don't think it's an overly talented, middle 6 of the forward group. But they're showing that they're capable of winning in ways that you have to be able to win, and they're beating good teams now. And that's the part that's standing out to me, is the beating good teams.
You talk about identity. We talked yesterday about the fourth line being that identity line. And another guy that's on a one-year contract, Oscar Sundqvist, who you brought in, former Blue, great in the locker room. That fourth line had a shift last night in the second period, I believe, that ultimately set them up to score 2 more goals. They kept that puck in, which seemed like for at least 2 minutes. It was an unbelievable line. I thought that line did a great job, and I think they are the catalyst of this team right now that are driving everybody else to want to be better.
Well, it's nice to have the fourth line just do what fourth lines are supposed to do, as opposed to looking at it and say, well, we're not getting enough out of the fourth line. It used to be when the Rams were here, we'd say, we get the text message constantly, well, who's going to be the 6th wide receiver? I don't know. I don't care. They're not going to make an impact. Who's going to be the number 1 guy? Who's going to be the separator? Who's going to make... We got to stop looking... And the fourth line is not comparable to the 6th wide receiver, but you get the point of, if everything else falls into place, then you can just say, hey, you go out there and you do your job, and anything you do is going to be magnified now.
Are you believing in this?
I thought they were a playoff team at the start of the year, but I thought you said something a couple of minutes ago that was spot on in that, okay, what is the proper expectations now? Because you said... I don't know if they're going to make a deep run or anything like that. I don't think we need to answer that question right now. I really don't. You missed the playoffs last year. There's a good and a bad to that. The good is the expectations are now somewhat lowered. The bad is if you start to play better, you start to, no, just fall back to the expectations. This is a playoff team. I expect them to make the playoffs. And for what we're seeing right now, yes, I do believe in it.
I think that them being bought in goes a lot farther than a team with just talent. If you look at the team last year, I don't know if they were bought in, and when they would lose multiple games, and I think that they would let that get to them, whereas now it seems like this team, if they lose a game, they see what they did wrong, they learn from it, and then they go apply it like they did with the Jets, and now they've scored 13 goals in the last 2 games.
Nothing's changing, too. You can fall back on it. You can fall back on this is how we're going to play.
Exactly. And you get rewarded for it.
Absolutely. That's the key. That game last night, the Avalanche game, all the goals since the Devils game, you're starting to see the results. It's like getting inside the gym, and after 3 months, you say, oh, okay. All right, now I see it. Now I understand why I'm going to the gym and why I'm doing this specific routine every single day. There is a payoff.
To continue that, you're going to plateau at a certain point, right? Like you're going to hit that place where you're hitting the same 225 set for the same number of reps. You're like, I don't understand why I'm not able to continue. I just had all of this progress and now I'm stalling out. That's going to happen for this team. They're going to probably hit a place where they lose 3-4 games in a row and it's going to look ugly. And we're all going to wonder, okay, is this where they have the moment where it goes back into the direction of a year ago? I think you're right. I think they're the third or fourth best team in this division. I think that Greg Wyshynski said something on with us before the season that stuck with me. He was talking about where the Blues are, and everybody had a horse in this Central Division that they were gonna bet on, right? His horse was the Nashville Predators. He said the reason why is because I believe in their goalie, I believe in their defensive structure, and I think in a division with a whole lot of teams that don't know who they are, they know exactly what they are. They're gonna win with goal suppression. I think the Blues have just taken on that identity.
Yeah.
They have become what the Predators were supposed to be this year, where they're winning with goal suppression. They have a goalie that's playing his ass off right now, and they've got some defensemen that are starting to play above what we all thought they would be. Torrey Krug's been good lately.
They're playing more like they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, Colton Parayko, you mentioned him. He's been great so far this year. So
Torrey Krug he blocked a ton of shots last night. He had 2 unbelievable passes that led to goals.
That no look to Verana was sweet, man.
And the one to Kyrou might have been even better.
Yeah, very true.
They're playing at a level right now where I think third, fourth best team in the division, make the playoffs, see what happens from there. That's a really nice step forward from where you were a year ago.
After your two teams missed the playoffs last year, the Blues and the Cardinals, just enjoy the ride because this one looks pretty right now. Like you said, you're going to hit some bumps in the road. It's an 82-game season. You don't have to get too high on it because there will be a losing streak at some point. Let's not get too low when the losing streak happens. And again, let's just enjoy the ride overall. 2:14, your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Our guy BK is a huge Mizzou fan. He went to Mizzou. And what the playoff committee did last night, if you're a Tigers fan, you have to be absolutely pumped out of your mind for the final 2 games. We'll tell you why. Next, in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. If you're a Mizzou fan, what the College Football Playoff Committee did last night has to leave you jacked out of your minds. Brandon Kiley, proud Mizzou alum, joining me for the first hour of the show today. It's the Fastline on 101 ESPN. Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. Mizzou is now ranked 9th. They go from 14th to 9th. And the key here is that if they beat Florida and Arkansas, and they'll be favored in both. They are favored against Florida. They will be favored against a very bad Arkansas team. They're going to go to a New Year's Six Bowl, which is absolutely paramount for this program. If you can't beat LSU and or Georgia and get yourself into the SEC championship game and have an opportunity to play in a college football playoff game, BK, this is the next best step for this program, for the growth of this program, to play in one of those New Year's Six Eve bowl, or not Eve, but just New Year's Six bowl games. Because if you are in the Music City Bowl in the middle of a Tuesday, it does nothing for you. If you are playing on that day, that still means something.
It's a national commercial.
Yes.
For your program.
100%.
Like, that's what Saturday was. You were on CBS midday. That is the prime spot for an SEC team, right? Going up against Tennessee, a nationally relevant football program who, say what you will about them this year, they're a good team. Mm-hmm. They're a really good, a legitimate top 25 team in the country. And you went out there and beat the living hell out of them for 60 minutes.
And did it in a way that you hadn't been beating opponents beforehand. I mean, Schrader's been obviously an unbelievable story, but you haven't been running down people's throats like that.
And that's one of the best run defenses in the country that you did that against. So to do it against that team that beat the hell out of you last year and the year before that, and to take care of business at home, it was huge. It was just an absolutely massive win for them. And then afterwards, Eli Drinkwitz is coming out there and basically giving another infomercial. Mm-hmm. That's what these kinds of bowls are, is an infomercial of what your program is and can be long-term if you're able to make it there. Now, you have to go out there and you got to win these last two games. Mm-hmm. You can't fall apart against Florida or Arkansas. You're better than both of these teams. So go out there and do it. But, Stoltz, if you do, you win 10 games in the regular season. This will be the third time that Mizzou has done that since 2013, since joining the SEC. Do you know how many times LSU has won 10 or more games in that stretch?
In the same stretch?
Since 2013, so basically the last decade. How many times has LSU, a nationally relevant program, won a national championship in this era? 10-plus wins in the last 10 years in the regular season. You
fell apart since the title appearance. So you can pretty much lob off the last, 4 seasons? I would say they have won 10 or more games 3 times over that span.
Two times. You know how many times Tennessee's done it?
Once.
One time. You know how many times Arkansas has done it?
0.
Texas A&M?
0.
Mizzou might do it the third time in the last 10 years. The only programs in the SEC that have done it more often in that stretch are Georgia and Alabama. You would be third on that list. Mm-hmm. So I hear all about this, how, Mizzou can't hang with the big boys, and you got to be a big boy program if you're going to play with these teams. Man, Mizzou is proving that they can be that. What they're proving right now, in my opinion, is that it can be a program that is never going to be Alabama. It's never going to be Georgia. Nobody is expecting them to be that. But they can punch up now. With Eli Drinkwitz at the helm, they have the ability to be a 10-plus win program. Not on an every-year basis, but 1 out of every 3, 1 out of every 4.
But doesn't this feel different?
Pinkel had.
But doesn't this feel different, though, BK? I mean, you offer tremendous perspective on that 3, because I would have never put that together. But doesn't this year feel different? I mean, maybe I'm just speaking for myself. Then maybe not the back-to-back SEC title seasons, but everyone in between.
It does, because you have a coach that now allows you to have that year. 2018 was supposed to be this. Mm-hmm. 2018 was Drew Lock's final season. You've got a really good offense with that team. Barry Odom at the helm. They ended up being a really, really good team, but they won 8 games.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't figure out how to win these close games, the one-score games. That's what's been different this year. You're finishing. You finished the job against the teams that you needed to. I know LSU, Georgia, those hurt. But you're finishing the job this time around. Mm-hmm. In 2018, when Barry Odom was the head coach, I learned then everything I needed to know. He wasn't the guy. He wasn't going to be the guy, because in a year where you were supposed to peak, he couldn't do it. What Eli Drinkwitz taught me this year, and why it feels different compared to the Odom era, is he can do what Gary Pinkel did. Mm-hmm. In the years where everything comes together, the seas part, he can be a coach that gets you to 10, 11 wins. And in those seasons, you can do something special. If it was a 12-team playoff this year, Mizzou would be a part of it. That's special, man.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the most impressive thing for me is how Drink has been able to adapt and adjust as the season has gone along. We look at the first few games of the year, that Middle Tennessee game. I mean, we were criticizing the team even though they won, but now we're giving them praise, and I think that shows a lot of growth, not only from the players, but from Drink, because there was a ton of critics, ton of question marks surrounding him, and the ability to get this team to where they're at right now, they're winning in different ways. I think that says a lot about the coach.
Yeah, that's a good point. BK, you admitted that you were wrong, or maybe you're in the process of being wrong about the Blues.
Yep.
I was wrong about Mizzou for exactly what Marsh just said. Coming into the year, I did not see 8 wins because I thought they'd do the Mizzou thing. And they completely justified my thoughts in the first 3 games of the season. I thought nothing has changed about the offense. You remember you played my clip by saying this is a high school offense. We're throwing sideways constantly. You're not going to beat SC. You're not going to beat Tennessee this way. You're certainly not going to beat Georgia. Forget like Georgia and LSU, but you're not going to beat Tennessee. You're not going to beat Kentucky this way. You have to throw vertically. And then after the Kansas State game, you start to throw the ball vertically, consistently. And then, to your point, Marsh, you get Tennessee coming to town. And I said this last Friday. I said Kentucky did not beat Tennessee, but they moved the ball consistently in the same way that Mizzou likes to do it, vertically and with a mobile quarterback. And that was not the case.
No.
They ran Schrader right down their throats constantly. So to your point, Marsh, they've done it in different ways. But the key is you're winning close games. That is coaching. I don't care what anybody says. That's coaching at this level. Hell, it might even be coaching at the NFL level, save for, of course, the quarterback play. The teams that can win close games are the ones that know game management, game scripts, game theory, and they execute it to perfection. The ones that lose constantly close games, those are the ones that you're losing those small little details in the late fourth quarter that are costing you games.
And you don't want to play a ton of them. Like you don't want to be in one-score games every week.
You
right?
don't want to be the Minnesota Vikings.
Exactly. Because over time, those will become more 50-50.
You want to win.
But
yeah.
If you're able to get a couple of them over the course of the season, that's huge. That's huge. And the flip games have gone Mizzou's way this year. Next year, they might not. Next year, it might be a situation where, okay, you lose Cody Schrader. You lose a couple of these players defensively, especially in the secondary, and you end up being, instead of a 10-win team, a 7 or an 8-win team. You got to limit the floor. The floor has been a problem for Mizzou in recent years. They've gone down to 6 or 5 wins, and it's like, okay, well, that's not something that you can sustain a winning program if you get that low, because recruits aren't going to look at you after a certain amount of time. But if the low years, it goes back to Gary Pinkel, are 7 or 8 wins, your peak years are 10-plus wins, and over a 4-year stretch, you stay somewhere in that range. You're talking about a program that is not only highly respectable, but one that is considered to be a top 20 to 25 program in the country. Somebody on the text line said, guys, but if you can't beat Alabama or Georgia, you're never going to win a title, so who really cares? Well, then there's 5 teams in the country that actually matter on a year-to-year basis.
Right.
This is college football, guys. There's you could come into the season and name 8 teams. One of these 8's going to win the national title. And 85 to 90% of the time, you'd be right. So what do the other 122 fan bases care about going into the season? College football is not exclusively about winning a national championship. Everybody should have that as a goal, sure. But whenever that goal is taken away from you, which it will for about 125 of the teams at some point over the course of the season, what are you also striving for as a fan base? Why am I watching every Saturday? And as a Mizzou fan, what I'm watching for is stuff like what we saw on Saturday, man. Really cool moments where Cody Schrader, a former D2 player, comes in and becomes one of the most highly productive players in any individual SEC game in the last 20 years. It's pretty damn cool. What I'm watching for is a season like this, where a team actually comes together and has an opportunity to go to a New Year's Six Bowl. That is a massive improvement, a huge step forward for this program. So, no, they're not going to beat Georgia or Bama regularly. They're not going to be better than those programs at any point in time, but they can be pretty damn good. And if you're pretty damn good with the new college football playoff format, you might be able to get in.
That's key, because it will expand. So you want to be in that conversation.
You mentioned Georgia. It's not like Georgia was some, highly touted school about, 10 years ago?
No, when Kirby Smart got there, that's when things changed. That's when they went into a national powerhouse. Really. When Kirby Smart arrived in Athens, that is when Georgia flipped the script. I saw a Georgia game in 20. What was that? I'll tell you who. It was a Vanderbilt game, and Jay Cutler was the QB. So that was 06 maybe. Yeah. That Georgia program was really good. It was not a national title contender. And that is what I felt Georgia was up until Kirby Smart. Then Kirby Smart turned that thing into an absolute juggernaut. You want to be in the conversation, like you said, BK, for a college football playoff. And this Mizzou team would be in the college football playoff once it expands. Get in. All right, it's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. This segment we saved for BK. We're going to do Prove Me Wrong. Have you heard Prove Me Wrong?
I've not.
So this is where it's at. Any texter can throw out a statement, and then we have to prove that statement wrong.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
And Marsh is the judge, jury, and executioner.
Love it.
It's a lot of fun. We'll do Prove Me Wrong next on 101 ESPN. Information right now, it's absolutely vital. I don't care what we're talking about, especially, though, when it comes to your health and your well-being. If you're somebody right now, if you're a man, and you're run down constantly, you're stressed out constantly, you don't love going to work, or you don't love certain things that you used to, then head down to Mentality. Tell them Jamie and Anthony told you to go down there. Follow their steps. They're going to sit down with you. They're going to ask you very basic questions and be honest with them. Because if you're anything like Jamie and I, we were feeling run down. We didn't have the motivation to get back in the gym, but we did something about it. We took accountability, and we said, we don't want this to continue to go on this way. We have prime years left, and we want to make sure we're living life to its absolute fullest. So when we went down to Mentality, and they asked us questions like, are you down? You depressed? You feeling overwhelmed? You feeling like, you're not motivated anymore? We said yes, 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 and they put us on the program, and now we feel fantastic. We do have that motivation. We do have that energy. We put down the energy drinks and the coffee and all the manufactured stuff, and we did it the right way. Increased testosterone, got on some very key vitamin supplementation, and now, again, we're feeling great. You can, too. Head down to Mentality or check them out at lowtusa.com.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning last night by a final score of 5-0. They'll be back in action tomorrow night taking on Anthony's San Jose Sharks. Pregame starts at 8:30. Puck drop is at 9:30. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. We'll talk with Blues insider Jeremy Rutherford later in the show, so stay tuned for that. We just talked about Mizzou as they are now ranked number 9 in the college football playoff rankings. If you missed that, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. We have Prove Me Wrong coming up next, so if you have a Prove Me Wrong statement, send it our way to the Air Comfort Service text line, 314-399-9646. Prove Me Wrong coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at londoff.com and londoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
Prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong.
All right, this is BK's first opportunity to play Prove Me Wrong. BK filling in for the first hour of the show today, which we do appreciate here in the Fast Lane. Andrew Marsh is here. I'm Anthony Stalter. Marsh and I got you covered from 3 to 4, and then Dan McLaughlin in for 4 to 6. So we're kind of a hodgepodge today with Jamie out traveling. All right, BK, we explained this to you before we broke.
Sir.
Texters are going to throw out a Prove Me Wrong statement. They're going to make a statement, and it's up to you and I as the official law firm for 101 ESPN to prove them wrong. And Marsh is judge, jury, and executioner. Sound good?
I love it.
All right.
Let's do it.
What do we got first?
From the 636, Prove Me Wrong. Jordan Bennington could finish as a Vezina finalist, and the Blues still don't make the playoffs.
There's absolutely no way, if he's a finalist, that the Blues will miss the playoffs. Name, I don't know. How many finalists? 3?
Yeah, I believe so.
Typically, there's 3.
Let's check who was. Yeah, 3.
Okay. You're telling me that even if he finishes third, there's going to be a bunch of other teams that make the playoffs with goaltenders that are not as good? No way. And I think if Binnington, his numbers are there, which obviously would qualify for him to even be a candidate for the Vezina. If his numbers are there, the defense in front of him is going to have to play well. And it's a 5-man game. It's a 5-man unit. They'd all have to play well. So I don't think if Jordan Binnington continues to play as well as he has, that there's any chance in hell that the Blues miss the playoffs.
Stalter, what was the biggest question mark about this team coming into the year?
Defense.
What would the biggest plus be about this team if Jordan Binnington is a Vezina trophy finalist?
The defense played well.
There's really nothing more to say. Your biggest question was answered with an exclamation mark, and suddenly your weakness became your strength, and now your strength still exists with the offense that is now showing itself to be among the best in the NHL. Blues lead the league in goals over the last week. I think this is a simple open and shut case.
We rest our case.
Yeah.
It was pretty simple once you guys laid it out. I mean, you can't be a top Vezina finalist. I mean, we talk about goal suppression, right? I don't see this team losing 1-0 every single game.
No.
So for that, you guys win the case. Next one.
For what it's worth, now that we're done with that one, Markstrom, I think, was a finalist, and that didn't go well for Calgary.
Well, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but we can move on.
Otherwise,
we don't care about that team.
Otherwise, our client was accused of murder, and we have the video that he was at home that night. So
Obviously.
It's a layup.
I mean, the case is already settled.
Yeah.
So we can't go back and do it again. I mean, that's law, baby. Part of the law.
Can't reopen this again. It's no new evidence.
No double jeopardy around here.
Exactly. From the 636, Prove Me Wrong. Ryan Wingo will flip from Texas to Mizzou.
Oh, well, I think this is a very simple open and shut case. It's very clear that he is not going to be flipping back to Mizzou. He went to the highest bidder. Everybody saw what happened. The 24/7 guy came on after he flipped from Mizzou to Texas and said, hey, I thought it was Mizzou up until last night when his dad called me and said, hey, something changed. He's going to be committing to Texas now. I wonder what changed. Do you think Texas is going to be outbid by Missouri? Get out of here. Ryan Wingo's sticking with his Texas commitment. He was never going to end up coming to Mizzou. They were just being used for part of the negotiation. I think it's very clear.
Nice.
Giving it to you. That university's got a ton of money. And Texas, Although they've lost a few games in the past, they're right in the mix with Mizzou right now. So I think the only way Mizzou could grab a hold of him is if Texas were to be a bad team at this point. And I don't think that's the case.
Boy, this last couple of weeks in college football is going to be a lot of fun, man. I think we're going to start seeing chaos. I think Washington loses this
That was
weekend.
the one that I was about to ask you about.
I think Washington loses in Corvallis this weekend. Washington's been, as I've said on multiple occasions about other teams, have been walking that tightrope. So I think they're about to fall off.
From the 657,
Probably
prove
win
me wrong.
55-4.
657 says, prove me wrong. Yamamoto should be the Cardinals' #1 pitcher they go for instead of aging vets like Aaron Nola. With Yamamoto's age, there is less risk in signing the longer term.
BK, help me out on this one. $30 million per year for Yamamoto. About $20 million just to post, correct? So we're looking at $50 million thus far. How much? What's the budget for the Cardinals this season?
$50 million, yeah, $50 million.
All of the $50 million. All of the $50 million going to one player when you need multiple spots. They're going to have to, at least right now, use that budget to fill multiple spots, not only in the rotation, but also the bullpen, and continue to develop your next ace, which is really the best way to acquire said ace. So I think right now, spending it all on Yamamoto, or at least not doing the spend. How much is Nola going to get? 25 maybe?
I don't know at this point, maybe 30.
Okay. But spacing that out with a Nola and one of these other tier 2 guys and really building that rotation. That's the way to do it. You're trying to build a team.
As a purely eye test, non-metric based fan of baseball, I can tell you, Stalter, that I would never give a 10-year contract to a 5'10", 175-pound pitcher.
Fair enough.
That is my case against Yamamoto.
Yes.
I didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to hear it.
I
want Yamamoto. I didn't even care. Pedro was small too. Threw BBs.
I hated that one. I'm not going to lie. All right, from the 636, prove me wrong. The hot stove season is setting up for the Cards to go into an extended losing seasons.
Oh boy.
I'm going to tell you why everything's going to be fine here in St. Louis. Specifically with the Cardinals. Mo's just setting you up. He's setting expectations low. You undersell, over-deliver. That is the mantra of John Mozeliak going into this offseason. He's told you we're going to be aggressive. And guess what, Stalter? They absolutely are. What he's going to do is he's going to go out there. First thing that he's going to do, he's going to sign Sonny Gray. And everybody here in St. Louis is going to say to themselves, Sonny Gray, that's really your biggest move? And it's going to be similar to when the Blues signed Tyler Bozak. That night, they made the big trade that ended up winning them a Stanley Cup, with Ryan O'Reilly entering the mix into the fold as the next captain of the St. Louis Blues. And he's the piece that put them over the top to end up winning them the Stanley Cup. The Cardinals will then make a big trade for a starting pitcher that puts them over the top. They're going to be trading for Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease is going to put them over the top with Sonny Gray as your number 2. You're going to sign Michael Wacha as another starter that comes in and adds a little bit of depth to your rotation. Everything's going to be fine here. You've got a second baseman now in Tommy Edman that's going to help your defense. You're going to be built around the defense and run prevention. And much like the Blues, people will question, do you have the offense? Did you go too far in the other direction? No. They're going exactly in the right direction. The St. Louis Blues, much like the St. Louis Cardinals, are back. And starting next year, they're going to be back to their winning ways.
Man, I mean, when you throw the 2019 Stanley Cup champions in there,
come on.
I feel like I really
That's
got
a really good. Come on. Nice. Way to go, BK.
You got to know your audience.
Oh,
Way
man.
to go.
All right, last one here from the 636. Interesting one. Prove me wrong. Shohei Ohtani will sign a 1-year deal with a contender and then reset his market next year as a two-way player.
No, doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. He can negotiate. His agent can negotiate for this first year to be that of just a hitter or just a hitter. Well, I guess he'd just have to be a hitter. Then move on to the escalators that are put in place when he eventually is a pitcher again. I don't think he's not gonna have to reset his market. This is not a Cody Bellinger of a year ago. This is not Carlos Rodon of 2 years ago. This is not Josh Donaldson 5 years ago. Shohei Ohtani is going to get his money one way or another, and he's going to get his long-term contract. Might have to take a little less in the first year, but there's going to be those pitching escalators that are going to be throughout the course of the contract. He doesn't have to do the one-year pillow deal.
Need a little bit more. Maybe from BK.
Oh! He's already done things that we haven't seen done in Major League Baseball since Babe Ruth, and he did them better than Babe Ruth. Do you think Babe Ruth would have been asking for a one-year pillow deal if he hit free agency that didn't exist back then, but maybe if you put him 100 years in the future, it would have? No, he never would have had to settle for a pillow deal. Even if he got Tommy John, he could have had his leg cut off. He would have been getting a multi-year contract from somebody. Shohei Ohtani will end up having the same. Come on, man. We got Babe Ruth into the conversation.
Yeah, you did mention the great Bambino.
There we go. Nice. All right, perfect
But
on
he
the day.
was traded. Don't forget that.
He was.
And then what happened to that team? What happened to that team?
Cursed.
100-year
They
curse.
were cursed until 04. Cursed. Nice job there, BK. I thought you were representing Dahmer on the one, but it actually turned out to be OJ, and you made it happen.
Hey, man.
Didn't look good. It didn't look good. I thought you had. I mean, they had DNA evidence and everything on you.
The glove didn't fit.
Glove didn't fit,
That's
and you
all.
proved that. Yeah. Nice job.
Man, OJ, he's just been everywhere these days.
That's OJ for you.
Except for California, of course.
Well, he's got to still look for the killer at some point. You know,
He's out there.
He's out there. Yeah.
We'll find him.
Eventually. It's been a while, but he's still working on it, I'm sure.
Again, double jeopardy, not a thing here, as we found out earlier today.
All right. There was something that the Rams did a couple of years ago that other teams have followed suit on. And boy, it has not worked out. I'll tell you what that is next on 101 ESPN. The Missouri Athletic Club, love heading down there each and every day, especially throughout the week. Love getting my workout in, but there's a lot of times where I'll get caught just kind of looking at a lot of the events that are coming up throughout the course of the month. Last month, they had the trunk or treat for the family. This month, something Thanksgiving themed. Next month, of course, they're going to have breakfast with Santa and all that. They do a great job, the Missouri Athletic Club does, whether it's a downtown spot or the West Clubhouse, of incorporating things to do, not only as an individual, but as a family member as well. And it makes your club membership that much more valuable. Love going down to the Missouri Athletic Club. That's my MAC. So a couple of years ago, the Rams sent Jared Goff to the Lions and acquired Matthew Stafford. And because Jarquiski Tart, did I say that name right?
I think that's right, yeah.
Jarquiski Tart. Last name Tart. First name dropped the biggest interception in an NFC title game that you'll ever see. Because Tart dropped that ball, and because Aaron Donald wrecked the Bengals offense on the final drive of the Super Bowl, the Rams won the said Super Bowl. Sorry to bring that up here in St. Louis. But I bring that up because on a day where Deshaun Watson has shoulder surgery that's going to end his season, the blueprint of, hey, go out there, trade for the veteran quarterback, add him to the mix, and you're going to win a Super Bowl, has officially blown up in the last team's face. It blew up in the Broncos' face badly after they acquired Russell Wilson and gave up an absolute haul in order to do so. It has thus far blown up in the Jets' face. I'm not even saying they shouldn't have done this. Okay, it's not that conversation. The conversation, though, is you watch the Rams do this, you try to follow suit. Both in the short term and the long term, the Broncos are in trouble. The Jets right now, maybe not as in trouble as the Broncos, but they're in trouble. And the Cleveland Browns are in a world of hurt because they guaranteed Deshaun Watson's contract. If the Browns don't win a Super Bowl, that will go down as the worst contract in NFL history, if not the worst contract in sports history, because of what it did to their cap and what it means based on the fact that they've got a good defense. They had a good running game. And they gave Deshaun Watson all that money to get him from Houston. And thus far, it's been a disaster.
It has been, and I wouldn't have done it if I was them. The guaranteed contract is the part that puts it over the top. The picks, whatever. Like, if you have to give up picks to get what you believe to be a franchise-level quarterback, it's worth it to me. Like, I would do over the Aaron Rodgers thing if I'm the Jets. It hasn't worked because he blew out his Achilles in the first quarter of the first game of the season. It was worth it. You gave yourself an opportunity, man. We've watched the Jets now all season long. We've seen the rest of the AFC. If they had Aaron Rodgers on that team, I think they would be a Super Bowl contender this year. It just didn't work because of the injury. The Browns situation is different. They hadn't seen him play football in a year, man. Like, this was a guy that had all of the off-field issues, had not seen him play football recently, and we're going to give up a boatload of picks, and we're going to give him the biggest contracts that is guaranteed in the history of the league. We've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
That was insane. The Russell Wilson one, I don't think anybody could have seen this coming. I think he got put into a terrible situation last year that went horribly awry. I don't think he was healthy most of the season.
He's also at fault for a lot of that.
Fair.
He's a weirdo. He is a total weirdo, and he wanted to do what Pete Carroll didn't allow him to do, and now we know why Pete Carroll didn't allow him to do it. Russ shouldn't be cooking.
Can we be honest?
He's not a chef. He's been fine. His numbers are solid. But what they gave up for him was for a franchise quarterback, a difference maker. And Russell Wilson.
What did they really give up for him, though? A couple of picks.
The first rounders?
Yeah, gave up a couple of picks.
They gave up 2 first rounders, right? Didn't they give up multiple second rounders as well?
I believe so.
2 first, 2 seconds. Like, I don't care about.
Don't forget Drew Lock.
I like Drew Lock a lot.
Gave up Shelby Harris, fine defensive lineman.
What I'm talking about, what I'm really focusing in on are the picks. But you also have to factor in what you're passing up on there too. For example, the Bears are going to have to weigh whether or not Justin Fields is going to be the guy, because if you go back to him, you are passing on what's coming out. You have to have that conversation with yourself if you're a GM in the NFL and you're going to be in that spot. The Vikings, at one point, were going to have that same conversation about Kirk Cousins. Now they have quarterback God in Joshua Dobbs, and they don't have to worry about that for the foreseeable future because that guy's going to win a Super Bowl at some point. But, yeah, you like that, Marsh?
Yeah.
That was for you. But you do have to weigh that in. What am I passing up on? It's not just picks to me, is what I'm saying. That's where you and I kind of maybe disagree a little bit. Like, picks, no problem. But you're passing up on.
And it's also the opportunity cost of what you could do with them elsewhere.
Certainly.
I get that. And as I look into who these picks were, it's not ideal. They gave up the opportunity to draft Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, Devon Witherspoon this year, who's been excellent for the Seahawks. They basically remade their defense based on the picks that they were able to accumulate from the Russell Wilson trade. I still might have done that if I was Denver. If I'm being totally honest with you, this is a potential Hall of Fame quarterback that I've got the opportunity to get via the trade market. It's an insanely high price to pay.
Yeah.
But that's the cost of doing business if you fail to acquire your quarterback in other reasonable means. The other way to go about it is to do what the Panthers just did, to trade up in the draft, go get the quarterback that's on the cheap rookie level deal. And guess what? That can blow up in your face too.
Right.
The Bears tried that with Mitchell Trubisky. Guess what? Didn't work. Tried it with Justin Fields. Guess what? Hasn't worked so far. The Falcons, how's it going with them with trying to find their quarterback?
Real good. Real good.
Real good, right?
They've got two. And when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any.
You got Kirk Cousins with your team. I'd say it's been fine. Honestly, it's about as good as you could possibly ask for by finding a guy via free agency.
I would say so.
Finding a quarterback's hard, man. How many teams in the NFL right now honestly believe they have their quarterback for not just this year, but for the next 5? And they're like, I would sign up for this for the next 5 years, no questions asked about it.
I would take the under on half the league.
Yeah, like 10?
Oh, for sure.
10, maybe at that?
Now I'm interested because you asked. If we
Chiefs
set
are there.
if we set the over under at 10.5.
I'm saying under.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. Dolphins.
I don't know.
I'll say no.
Are you paying Tua $40 million a year?
No, I'm not.
So let's slide no.
Bills.
Yes.
You got to say yes on Josh Allen. I know he's a turnover
It's frustrating,
machine,
but he's
like,
top 5 quarterback in the league.
The Bills.
He's Brett Favre.
I mean, he is
You don't
Brett
get rid of
Favre.
that guy.
He is. You know what? My buddy said this the other day when we were watching Monday Night Football. He said Josh Allen is Brett Favre in a blue jersey.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Who can run? He's the modern day version of what Brett Favre would be in today's game.
I think that's fair. Jets, no. Patriots, no. Ravens?
Yes.
Steelers, no. Browns, no. Bengals?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jacksonville? Yes. Houston?
Yes.
Yes.
Indy, no.
We'll see.
Tennessee, yeah, that's true with Anthony Richardson, but we'll say no for now. Tennessee, you can't say that with any definitive nature. So we're at 5 right now. Kansas City, yes.
We'll see.
Raiders, no. Chargers, yes.
Yeah.
That's 7. Broncos, no. Eagles, yes. Cowboys.
I don't know, man.
I would say
no.
yes.
I think
no.
they should. I think it's silly that we have these conversations that we do about Dak. I think he's
too.
really good.
I think he's really good too. I don't think he's great. And I think that's where people they want to elevate him into the great category. I think he's really good.
I think he is Kirk. No, I wouldn't say Kirk. He's like Derek Carr.
He's better than Derek
he's
Carr.
Derek-
I think your first one was right. I think he's
Like
Kirk Cousins.
I think so too.
He's Kirk Cousins in Dallas.
He's Kirk Cousins without quite as many of the "what are you doing" plays.
I do think that Dallas team is good enough to where if they did have a better quarterback, they'd.
But how many
get to the Super
quarterbacks
Bowl.
are better? And are any of those guys available? The answer is no.
No.
They're never available.
I'm saying yes on Dak.
I agree.
So we got 8,
9.
9. Washington, no. Giants,
Come
no.
Numbers look good, but no.
Detroit, I mean, I'd say yes.
5 years from now,
5 years, no. 3 years, yeah, probably.
You think Dak is still in Dallas in 5 years?
I think he should be. I think Dak is a really good quarterback.
What is he, 28? Is Dak 28, or do I have
Might
him?
be closer to like 30, but he's got to be in that range, right?
He is 30.
The thing with him, though, if he does not win within the next 5 years, like that is an organization that is looking to win.
By the way, the
all
entire
time.
rest of the NFC, we don't have to go through it. It's 0. There are no more.
I think
about Brock Purdy?
I think Purdy's a perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan, but he wouldn't
No
be.
idea if he's going to be there 5 years.
He
from now.
wouldn't
Are you
be
gonna
the perfect
pay him
fit.
$35 million a year?
Boy, you paid Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of money.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Sure, then 10.
How much?
Right, 10.
How much is it worth to find the right guy for your system?
That's fair.
You know, because the Rams paid a steep price and won a Super Bowl for it, but everybody else, no, I completely agree with.
The point is, if you have an opportunity to go get a guy that you think could become one of those 10 players that we were just talking about, because at the time that they traded for him, Russell Wilson was one of those 10. I would go do it. I wouldn't have done it for Deshaun because of all of the other issues, but like if one of these guys becomes available, if Dak Prescott were to become available, and I'm a team that is in the have-nots, one of the other 22 teams in the league, I'm trading for Dak Prescott because I think he has the ability to get me to a Super Bowl. So I'm always more in favor of doing that, being aggressive, because the alternative is being stuck with one of these schmucks that ends up winning you 7 games and you're stuck anyways.
And costing you.
Yeah.
Costing you 10.
But anyways, lesson was learned from the Rams, and a bunch of teams are paying for it in a big way because they
Certainly.
missed.
Yes,
they
they have.
whiffed on the quarterbacks that they traded for.
We'll see if the next crop, maybe even led by Kirk Cousins, see who acquires him to say, hey, is a lot better than what we have right now, but is it good enough? BK, good hour radio, man.
Thanks,
We appreciate you filling in. Thank you. BK pulled a full extra hour today. Don't forget to check out BK and Ferrario tomorrow, 11 to 2. Andrew Marsh and I, have you covered until 4 o'clock, and then Dan McLaughlin will step in, and he'll have us covered for the final 2 hours of the show. Chief making adjustments, plus something Army. We talked about this a little bit in the first segment. Something Army looked at from last year's team. They made the adjustment on, and I already think he's already collecting some profits on it. That's next on 101 ESPN.
I think from a defensive standpoint, checking standpoint, we're pretty solid, disciplined, staying out of the box. And then, did a good job of finishing on some plays and scoring and then staying with it. The buy-in matters on the ice, and what you do on the ice, that's where the buy-in matters.
That was Chief, and he's talking about buy-in. And Marsh, we had played Jordan Binnington's quotes from last night. So the Blues win last night 5-0. Jordan Binnington was absolutely outstanding. In fact, I thought both goaltenders put on a show in the first period.
Yeah.
Because Johansson was very good, too. I mean, the Blues got robbed multiple times on some Johansson saves. But Binnington was out of this world again in that first period. But it was interesting to hear him talk about buy-in after the game. And it reminded me of two things that Doug Armstrong and Chief did separately based on how last year played out. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this with Doug Armstrong. Last season, he noted that he had a bunch of guys playing pivotal roles in 1 year on 1 year deals. And that could be looked at one of two ways. You can say, well, they're motivated, they're going to play well, and we're going to benefit from that. Mm-hmm. But what happened was, as we know, when you started to lose early on, there was no foundation in which to fall back on. And I'll get to what that foundation is now this year, because we're seeing it. But last year, there's no foundation to fall back on. It was just, am I going to be here after the deadline? What's my role? Then everybody else is thinking, well, I know I'm going to be here because I'm a young player or I've got a contract, but I don't know what my role is going to be. Am I in a leadership spot? There's this trickle-down effect. And you get this, I don't know if it's anxiety as much as it's just uncertainty.
Right.
And then guys aren't free to play. And I don't think Doug Armstrong necessarily should have been aware of that. This isn't one of those where you didn't see this coming, like with Mo and the pitching staff. How could you have not seen this coming? Mm-hmm. I give Army a lot of credit for saying, I didn't recognize that before, but I did this year. And I made those adjustments. Now, BK was just with us, and he made those points about there are guys on 1 year deals, but it's not your key. It's not your key contributors.
It's your death pieces.
Absolutely. And I think now what we're seeing is that they are falling back on what are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And Chief has this team playing a very specific way, heavy on the forecheck, 200-foot game, all that, invested heavily on defense, and the offense will come. In the first part of the season, we questioned that. Since the Devils game, there's no reason to question it. Mm-hmm. And I love to hear guys like Binnington saying the team is buying in.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you think of a coach saying a message and then you're hearing that from your players, that means that message from the top is making its way through into the clubhouse,
certainly,
into the locker room. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a Blues fan, you have to be really encouraged by, one, the way they're playing on the ice and the way things are going off the ice that are leading to success on the ice. And I think we're seeing the team really, like you said, buy into what Chief and the staff are trying to accomplish here, and we're being rewarded for it. Mm-hmm. And not only are they being rewarded in terms of win, but they're spanking these teams.
Yeah.
They're making themselves known like, hey, we're not a team that you can just overlook now. Like, we're starting to play good hockey, and a team that is confident is a very dangerous team. And to your point about Army not really recognizing those 1 year contracts, I mean, usually when you think of a guy that's on an expiring deal, you think they're probably going to put up some good numbers because they want to get a good contract the following season. That was not the case here in St. Louis. So I can totally understand why he didn't really see it coming, because usually you expect that to happen from a player.
Certainly. And we've heard Chief, too. So the Army is not the only one that made the adjustments. We've heard Chief talk about this as well, and how he approached the team last year when things were going wrong, and how he's going to do it this year, and he's going to do it his way. Mm-hmm. What I feel, Marsh, is the most endearing aspect about Craig Berube is that the leader the leader makes the position. Mm-hmm. The position does not make the leader. When he became the interim head coach, he did so sitting at a table with Doug Armstrong, who said, the search for the next head coach starts now, with Chief sitting right there. Nobody, including us, expected that Craig Berube was going to be that guy, that coach. And he was actually sitting at that same table at that announcement. So him becoming the coach did not make him a leader. He is a leader.
Right.
And guys gravitated toward him. He was honest and direct about what they could do for the team and what the team was going to do essentially for them. And we're seeing that now following his first year where they don't make the playoffs. And I think he's done a hell of a job.
I do too, and I had this conversation. I believe it was last night with again one of my friends, and obviously Chief just won his 200th game. He's third all time in Blues history. And last year there was a lot of question marks surrounding Chief, at least from the fans. Like they were thinking, hey, maybe it's his time to go. This team isn't responding well to him. I had the thinking of, I wonder if Army and him are sort of they're a pack, and they will, if this team does start to trend in the wrong direction, if instead of getting rid of him, because he is the centerpiece, in my opinion, to this team, like he is a quote-unquote legacy coach now in Blues history. You look at the last two head coaches on that list, Ken Hitchcock and Joel Quenneville, the last time those two coaches were fired or left, the Blues kind of went in a downward spiral of sorts. You have the mid-2000s, not a great time to be a Blues fan. And then, of course, when Mike Yeo came in, a tough start to that 2018-2019 season. So I wonder if moving forward, if the Blues start to struggle, if Army in this retool starts to look at the players a little bit more and say, okay, let's figure out how we can make this work with Chief, because he is really good at making adjustments.
Well, he did that last year, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he did. He by standing by Chief and saying, hey, listen, we're gonna make changes to the roster. He did two things there. One, he stood behind Chief, and two, he admitted it. He admitted mistakes.
For sure.
And if you're going to be a successful GM or president of hockey operations or baseball operations, you've got to be able to not only learn from your mistakes, but say, we're going to admit them and we're going to move forward because we're going to be better because of them. If you make a bad draft pick, are you going to stick with that guy? If you chose wrong, we'll do the crossover again with Randy Arozarena, the Cardinals. So Randy, we focus on the Randy Arozarena trade. Look what you lost. You didn't know what you had, all that. And all that's true. But Marsh, I had said it at the time. That trade was just as much about Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill as it was about Matthew Liberatore. And we all rightfully focused on Matthew Liberatore. Did you get a top-end lefty for Randy Arozarena after that dude went on and was a postseason god for the Rays? You also have to include Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill because the Cardinals chose those two guys over Randy Arozarena. So it's double, it's triple worse because you, from a talent evaluation, didn't know what you had in Arozarena, and then you chose Harrison Bader and Tyler O'Neill. You got rid of Bader last year because you got Montgomery. Okay. But Tyler O'Neill is still around.
Right.
They have not admitted this. This unfortunately was the wrong move. Not acquiring him from Seattle, fine. He had the one big year, great. But they've been doubling and tripling down on the same player that has proven time and time again he can't stay healthy. At some point, you have to say, that was a mistake. I'm going to move forward, and here's how I'm going to correct it. And I feel like Army has done that.
I agree, and I think a lot of the listeners would agree with you as well, and I think they appreciate that. We've talked all summer long about the communication between the fans and the Cardinals, front office, and I'm not saying that they have to do that.
Yeah.
But in this market, it definitely helps. It definitely helps, especially for people that want to go and watch the game and spend money on watching the games. They would like a little communication on where this franchise is going. But yeah, I think that's one big thing that this front office, at least for the Cardinals, have not done is admit their faults. And I think there's a little bit of a respect factor that goes into it. If you do that, maybe people start, okay, hey, we'll forgive you for that.
Sure. But
now let's move forward and see what we can do here. But the Cardinals, I don't think they've done that yet, and this will be a huge offseason for them.
You don't even have to admit it publicly. You can do it with your actions.
100%.
I mean, Howie Roseman of the Eagles selected Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. He cut Jalen Reagor, I think, less than 2 years into his career in Philadelphia. That's enough to say, I messed up.
Right.
You don't have to say, I messed up. You could do so with your actions and your decisions.
But then what did they do?
Then they traded for A.J. Brown.
There you go.
they went to the Super Bowl last year. Absolutely. Yeah, so it's not only admitting it by either stating it or making that move. It's also correcting it. Of course, they drafted Devonta Smith too.
That's how you learn from your mistakes, though. You have to understand, where did I mess up, admit the fault, and then work on it to be better. That's with anything in life.
Yep.
You have to fail forward, essentially.
Certainly. We all make mistakes.
We'll see what the Cardinals do. Obviously, the Blues, have looked good so far this season, especially in the last 6 games. So hopefully they're going in the right direction. And it was because Army understood what he did wrong.
Yep.
And then decided to act on it.
I love it. Loved last night, too. Jeremy Rutherford is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. So 3:30 he's going to pop in, and we'll talk more Blues with JR, including what we saw last night. Torrey Krug, man, what a performance last night out of him. It wasn't just Jordan Binnington that stole the show. I thought Torrey Krug played perhaps his best game of the season, so we'll get JR's thoughts on that. But I got a Stalter stack up for you next, and even though the Eagles have been my number one team, I think since day one, they will not be my number one team in the Stalter stack up. And there's a very specific reason for that. I'll tell you next on 101 ESPN.
It's time for the Stalter Stackup, the top 10 teams in the NFL from the mind of Anthony Stalter.
Before we get into the Stalter Stackup, Marsh just read off a couple of text messages, and we appreciate it, man. We love hearing from you via the Air Comfort Service text line. We love it. We love the interactions. But some of the text, just to paraphrase, we're like, hey, when talking about the Blues, you guys have completely omitted or forgotten what they looked like in the first, eight games of the season. My question to you would be, what if it were flipped? What if the record to start the season was more in line with what they've done since that Devils game? And then the last 8 games have been wretched. What would you say then? Because you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, you can't just completely forget what they did at the start of the season. If it were flipped, I would imagine that you guys would be saying, the first 10 games or so were a smokescreen. Mm-hmm. This is the real Blues team. Look at how they're playing. I would rather look at it and say, you've evolved since the start of the season.
Right.
We've been patient, or we should have been more patient, about a new system being put in place. The players really buying into that, adopting to it, understanding it, and then this is the results. That is how I view this Blues team right now.
I could also see some fans being a little skeptical because we did see this with the Cardinals this past summer. You saw a really bad start, and then you saw the team start to pick it up. They were beating teams like the Dodgers. Nolan Gorman was coming alive. You said, hey, that guy last year, he was all right. Now he looks like a guy that could hit 40 bombs.
Sure.
And then things ended up being ugly.
Then I
can understand the skepticism.
I'm not telling you not to be skeptical. What were your expectations coming into the year? My expectations was this team was going to make the playoffs. They might get bounced in the first round,
right? But
they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, with the Cards, we thought they were winning the division.
We thought they were going to at least win the division. So the expectations, I think, can adjust throughout the course of a year. Mm-hmm. I think this is what happens when we start to lavish some praise on one of the local teams. I think what tends to happen is you guys think they're going to win a Stanley Cup. Nobody's saying that. My expectations have always been they're going to get back to the playoffs. First round's going to be a coin flip. We'll see from there. I have no expectations they're going to make some sort of deep run. Will they change throughout the course of the year like they did with City? Maybe. But we're a long ways away from that.
I think it's important to be critical of a team when they're not playing good, but also give them their flowers when they are playing very well. And the Blues are playing really well right now. And fans should be excited, and hopefully that continues.
In about 10 minutes, Jeremy Rutherford from The Athletic, our Blues insider, will join us. We'll talk a little Blues hockey with him. But now, time for the Stalter Stackup.
Number 10.
Browns, Seahawks, Steelers fans are going to be ticked off at me. I'm just going to throw out that right now because I do not have those 3 teams in the top 10. The Browns, not that Deshaun Watson was playing good, but he's going to have season-ending surgery. He's done. You lose what should have been your top 2 offensive performers in Deshaun Watson. He has not been. And then, of course, Nick Chubb. That defense is really good. They should not have won that game last week. And I think we're going to start to see the Browns fall back to the pack here. Seattle, I've been very clear with I think they're an average team playing above their skis as of right now. And the Steelers, I actually think the Steelers are coming a little bit. Their defense is good. Their running game is starting to improve. I should probably have them at number 10, but I can't. I've got to have the Minnesota Vikings at number 10. The 10th spot has been the absolute kiss of death in the Stalter Stackup. There has not been a number 10 team that has survived that same week. Do you know who my number 10 team was last week, Marsh? Do you remember off the top of your head?
Last week, it wasn't Houston.
Nope.
Because they won. But
they were the week before when they lost to Carolina.
Who was whatever week 10 last week? It had to be a team that lost this week then.
That's correct.
Was it the Bills?
It was the Bills. The Bills were tough. I don't hate the Vikings. I love Marsh. I think this is great. But if I have any chance of not having to consume at the very least 24 waffles from Waffle House in a 24-hour period, I have got to have the Vikings start losing games. So I'm going to use my curse as a gift, and I'm going to put the Minnesota Vikings at number 10.
2 things here. 1, Broncos have been playing really good. Let me take that back. They've been winning games. They've won 3 games in a row. They beat the Chiefs, and they beat the Bills, and they beat the Jets, which, whatever.
No, they didn't beat the Jets. They lost to the Jets. They beat? You're right. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the... there was another game in between there.
Who was that?
It wasn't a great...
It wasn't the Raiders,
opponent.
was it?
It may have been the Raiders.
One of those teams that isn't really that good. They beat them. But they beat the Chiefs. Pat Mahomes sick, whatever. And they beat the Bills. They've won games. That's really all that matters when you're in the NFL. So they've been playing solid football. We'll say that.
The Packers.
The Packers, that's correct. I knew it was a team that isn't good. Second thing, if Josh Dobbs does break your curse, he is the best quarterback in the NFL.
I'm already saying he is, but I still got to let the curse do its thing. So Minnesota Vikings, number 10.
Number 9.
I dropped the Bengals, but I didn't drop them out of the top 10. I still think this is a really good team. I didn't initially. It's funny. I might be proven right when it's all said and done that the Bengals won't make the playoffs. That was my proclamation at the start of the year. But with a healthy Joe Burrow, they've got a shot to win each and every week now. The defense, I think, is starting to come back into its own after making a bunch of necessary changes in the offseason. They got to get healthy. Jamar Chase has got to get completely healthy. They got to get T. Higgins back because that's the team, right? But when I liked what I saw to Joe Mixon the last couple of weeks. They just got down bad to Houston. They had to abandon the running game to some degree, but they still had an opportunity to win a game that, quite frankly, they shouldn't have been in last week. So I still got the Bengals in the top 10 at number 9.
Number 8.
I got to give the Texans credit, man. I got them at number 8 a long time ago, several months ago, when we were having some fun about teams that could go last to first. I said, I don't think the Houston Texans will win. I don't think they'll go to the playoffs, but I do think they have an opportunity to be improved. What DeMeco Ryans has done, turning that defense into one that's fast, fun, and aggressive. And, of course, C.J. Stroud playing like a 10-year veteran as opposed to somebody that's only got 9 games under his belt has been the difference maker there. But he has been great. Tank Dell has emerged as a very good receiver. Noah Brown has come out of nowhere to be a solid receiver. That is a good team, top to bottom. They're not great, but they're solid top to bottom, and I got them at number 8.
Number 7, thank you.
Dallas Cowboys, number 7. They have beaten bad teams all year long. They did not beat the Cardinals, but that's the only one. They beat the Giants twice like a rented mule. They beat the Jets. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Chargers in a tough spot on a Monday night after getting blown out by the 49ers, and they defeated a Rams team that was overmatched that day. They've got the Panthers, the Commanders, the Seahawks before they face the Eagles, Bills, Dolphins, and Lions. They've got a nice little cakewalk schedule for at least the next 2 weeks, if not the next 3. So I think the Cowboys are going up right now. I got them at number 7.
Number 6.
I got the Detroit Lions. I got Jamie Rivers' Detroit Lions at number 6. I was a little surprised that the Chargers were able to move the ball up and down the field on that team. I'm a little concerned about the defense the last, 2 out of the last 3 weeks. They gave up 38 to the Ravens on the road, and they gave up 38 to the Chargers on the road. But the Lions have got, you talk about cakewalk, Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears, Broncos, before they take on the best quarterback known to man in Joshua Dobbs in 2 of their last 3 games. The Lions are in a perfect spot to pull away from Minnesota and win this division, start challenging for one of those top 2 spots in the NFC. I got the Lions 6.
5.
I got the Dolphins. I got the Dolphins are right where I think they should be. I made this point when everybody said, well, they can't beat the good teams. They haven't beaten the good teams, but they don't have a lot of good teams on their schedule. They got the Raiders, they got the Jets, they got the Commanders, they got the Titans, they got the Jets again before they take on the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills. They don't play anybody until the final 3 weeks of the season, so they're going to continue to pile up wins. And if the Bills continue to backslide, and the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers back sooner rather than later, they're going to continue to middle. And the Patriots are awful, so the Dolphins could clinch the AFC East in the next 3 weeks, really. And for that, I got the Dolphins at 5.
Number 4.
The Ravens are the best team that also befuddle me. I made this point on Monday after they lost to the Browns. They have beaten themselves in the 3 games that they've lost thus far. I've not seen the Ravens lose a game. I've seen the Ravens beat themselves 3 straight times, but I still am a big believer in them. They should have won that game on Sunday. And I think Lamar Jackson's still playing outstanding, despite a crucial tipped pick that wound up being the difference in that one. So I got them at 4.
Number 3.
Niners are healthy. I got them in the top 3. They're one of my favorite teams this year. I love watching the Niners play. They got to play with the lead, but with Debo back, they're a different team. I got them at 3.
Number 2.
I'll make this real quick. I got the Eagles 2. I got the Chiefs 1. So you can play the 1.
Okay. Number 1.
There you go. Why? Why flip the Eagles and the Chiefs at this point? Because I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Eagles on Monday night. That's why. So I'm getting ahead of this thing. I'll give the Eagles their due respect if they do beat the Chiefs in Kansas City on Monday night. But I got the Chiefs winning that game. So I'm going to get ahead of it and put the Chiefs number 1. Because if I believe the Chiefs are going to win that game, I can't have the Eagles as my number 1 team. JR next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues win last night over the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 5-0. The Blues will be back in action tomorrow night taking on the San Jose Sharks. Pregame starts at 8:30. Puck drop is at 9:30. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. We are about to talk with Blues insider from The Athletic, Jeremy Rutherford. So JR coming up next right here in the Fast Lane. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Notes and nuggets. It's time for the Rutherford Report with our Blues insider, Jeremy Rutherford. Brought to you by Scott Lee Heating Company, a proud Mitsubishi Electric Elite contractor.
Blues 5-0 winners over the Tampa Bay Lightning last night in what wound up being an absolutely fun game. With Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. Dan McLaughlin filling in from 4 to 6. Right now, though, via the 101 ESPN Celebrity Line is our guy, JR. What's up, JR?
Not too much. Anthony, how you doing?
Doing great after last night, man. I thought both goaltenders for the first 15 minutes of that game put on a show. But Jordan Binnington, once again, in a game, if you do not have him, I think you're down 1 or 2-0 early in that game.
Yeah, and we could almost say that about, 12, 13 of the 14 games this year.
Seriously.
He's been phenomenal. You know, I've been talking to him the past couple of days at his locker stall, Anthony, saying, listen, I want to write a story about you. I need to get a few minutes of your time. And finally yesterday he goes, you know what? I've been thinking about this. I don't know if I want to say too much about what's going on. Let's just keep it going.
I don't blame him. I mean, it stinks for you, Jared, but I don't blame him on that. So this is the question, right? Like, what has changed? Has anything really changed, or has Jordan Binnington just his confidence is there again? We know the game is there, so when the two things meet up, this is the Jordan Binnington we get.
I really do think it's twofold. I think that the confidence was there early on last year, and then for all the reasons that we know, it just kind of deteriorated. Like, I remember being in the locker room when he pulled me aside and he said, listen, you want to write a story? Here's what I have to say. Let's go. Come on, we can play better. And so I think last year, with the way it fell apart, all the wide open slot shots and just the breakdown defensively, different system, yeah, I think that it just finally got to him. And I know the numbers haven't been good the past couple of years, but again, he's locked in from day one going into this year. The system's changed. The guys in front of him are playing better now. I think that they're used to this thing, and he's just locking it down. He's playing phenomenally.
JR, one of those guys that is playing in front of him is Torrey Krug. And, I mean, at the beginning of the season, there was a lot of fans that, were like, is he going to get it going? What's going on here? But last night, 5 block shots, 2 assists. He's +8 on the year. Over this past stretch of games, what have you seen differently from Torrey Krug that is leading to more offensive success?
Well, something I've seen differently is my Twitter feed isn't lighting up with Torrey Krug criticism. This has been some stretch for him. And, when I talked to him last night, I said, listen, no points, first 10 games. Just what are you thinking? What's going through your mind? And he said, honestly, mentally, I was in a good place. I felt like I was creating chances. Yeah, I could be doing a lot more on the power play, but I just felt like I was doing things. We just weren't necessarily finishing as a team. And so he kind of kept the mantra that he's going to practice hard. He's been out early on the ice early and just kept going in that direction. And we saw it last night. I mean, those passes aren't anything we haven't seen from Torrey Krug throughout his career. I mean, there's been a handful of them, but to have 2 of them, precision passing, no looking on the one to Vrana, within 19 seconds to help you pull away from a team like Tampa and take that 3-0 lead, just phenomenal. But I'll tell you what, even more impressive than that passing and that offense last night, his defense. I knew he was capable of this because he's done it, during his career, but the way he's playing physically in front of the net, in the corners, that's what he's been criticized for the past couple of years. And I think even with a new system, that doesn't help you play stronger, be bigger. but he's overcoming that, and he's playing big.
Jeremy Rutherford is our Blues insider with The Athletic. He joins us right now on the Fast Line on 101 ESPN. JR, I thought it was interesting. Chief mentioned it, and then Jordan Binnington mentioned it multiple times. Buy-in. Is it as simple, since that Devils game, is it as simple as the players have bought into the system, they understand what is being asked of them, and they're all buying in? Is it that simple when you look at what's going on right now with this turnaround?
Yeah, and so listen, anybody listening here on the radio is thinking to themselves, if they had a nickel for every time they heard buy-in, right, we'd all be millionaires, right? I totally get that. But it is a huge thing in hockey. You have to want to do what the coaching staff is telling you will win games, and sometimes it's not fun to do, like Ken Hitchcock's system, like what they're doing right now, blocking a lot of shots. I feel like it was there from day one, but maybe it took just a little adjusting or a little getting used to or getting comfortable with. And I feel 7, 8, 9, 10 games, they look comfortable doing it now. And did I know this was going to come? For sure not. We were saying after 7 or 8 games, whoa, maybe this team isn't as talented as we thought they were. But they look like they're getting comfortable. They've continued to march ahead and do what Craig Berube and the staff wants. And it looks a lot better. I mean, one of the best teams in the league this last 6 games. I think that the defense has kind of transitioned into more offense. We've seen that last 6 games, 4.5 goals per game. And guys who weren't stepping up early in the year, definitely doing that right now.
And, JR, you have to think that buy-in is somewhat infectious. You look at a guy like Jordan Kyrou last night. He had 2 takeaways. Of course, he had 2 goals on 6 shots as well. But you're seeing him win board battles, keeps pucks in, creating offense, and he's playing a lot better defense. Do you think his teammates see that, and that ultimately is really driving the Blues to success right now?
Marshy, definitely. And I'll take it a step further. I understand when people see Craig Berube criticize a Jordan Kyrou or, get on him about his defensive play. And their response is, look, he's an offensively skilled guy. You need guys like that in the league. Just let him do his thing and play. But you can't do that because everything will go out of whack. Then who's listening to you and why are they listening to you and which players have to listen to you, which ones don't? Craig Berube has to be the same coach, not necessarily with all these guys, but he has to have that same firm hand with all these guys. And, I believe that if Craig Berube and his staff hadn't been on Kyrou the past couple of years, we wouldn't see some of these winning board battles in the defensive zone that we saw last night. We've seen this season from Jordan Kyrou. So I do think that each individual player, the thumb is on them to play to the best of their ability. Yeah, use your skill, but let's see what the team needs. I think everybody's given that. It is contagious, and Kyrou's at the top of that list.
So based on, JR, your preseason expectations for this team, what we were told about the way that they were going to play, which team is the real version of the Blues? The one in the first 8 or so games or the one that we've seen since the Devils game?
Well, it's definitely not the one in the first 8. Again, not to give the excuse of they were getting familiar with the system. And it may not be this team that's rattled off this great stretch 5 or 6. I don't want to ride the fence and say, it's in between. I think they're closer to this team because, like Ken Hitchcock, and I think even Andy Murray has said in the past, old Blues coaches, if you've shown that you can do it, you can do it. Why can't you? And so, you see the skill up front. You see some of the balance. Is it a cup contender? Is this team going to continue to average 4.5 goals every 6 games? No, that's not going to be the case. But the talent is there. The capability is there. And if they continue to have that buy-in that we talked about, hey, there's another nickel for you guys, I think that they can be a team that, like Doug Armstrong said at the beginning of the season, could finish 3rd in the Central, could be a wild card team. Again, not a cup contender, I don't think, but a team that could be somewhere in that conversation.
All right, JR, last night, something weird happened as Pavel Buchnevich thought he had an empty net goal. We got a question from the 314. This texter was at the game, wanted to know why that goal was disallowed.
Well, thank God it wasn't a big woo, Ric Flair thing. But I thought I knew play had stopped, and I said to the people sitting next to me, Luke Korak, and I said, listen, I heard a whistle. So what was that? And we asked Craig Berube after the game, what did they tell you? And he just kind of shook his head, and he said, I don't know. They said they heard something in the building. So play stopped. I don't know if it was Pete in Section 232 or what, but somebody blew a whistle, did something that stopped a National Hockey League game last night and took a goal away from Pavel Buchnevich.
That's terrible.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Why the officials should go up to each other and say, hey, did you blow the whistle? No. Did you blow the whistle? No. Did you? No. No one did. Okay, goal. Good goal.
Yeah, that sounds like a Three Stooges act there. But, yeah, could you imagine having Buchnevich on your fantasy team? You need one more goal, and you lost out because of the whistle last night.
Man, not great. JR, great stuff as always. We appreciate you. Don't forget to give Jeremy Rutherford a follow on Twitter at JP Rutherford. I'm sure you're already following him, but, again, make sure you give him a follow if you have not. But we'll talk to you next week. Have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, thanks. Some video and some analysis of Jordan Bennington's play thus far coming out the Athletic in the next couple days.
Excellent. Good stuff. Looking forward to that. Thanks, JR.
See ya. Bye. That's
Jeremy Rutherford here in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. Is the Deshaun Watson contract already the worst in NFL history? We'll talk about it next on 101 ESPN. Deshaun Watson will miss the remainder of the season for the Cleveland Browns because he's going to undergo shoulder surgery. And Marsh, unless the Browns win the Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson, I don't think they'll ever be able to justify giving him what they did in guaranteed money. This will be a disaster.
It already is.
It already is, but the only, so you agree then, the only way the Cleveland Browns are going to make good on this, the decision to bring in Deshaun Watson, gave up what they gave up in draft compensation, which is one thing, but also in order to get him from Atlanta. He was going to Atlanta. That's where he's from. The deal was a layup. Mm-hmm. They were not going to do the guaranteed contract. They were going to do what I would call a regular contract for a quarterback. The Browns had to up the ante and said, "We'll guaranteed every single dollar of it." And he goes, "Okay." And he went to Cleveland. The only way to justify this contract, to make it work, is for the Cleveland Browns to win a Super Bowl.
Because you can't say it's make the playoffs, because they might make the playoffs without him because of their defense.
They made the playoffs with Baker,
which I think
was fine for them.
He was fine, and he was injured a lot, and obviously he had those, what would you call it? I mean, little butting of heads with OBJ.
Mm-hmm. Well, OBJ's dad kind of ignited those flames by posting every single time that his son was open.
So I don't know if
did not get a pass.
If that culture was toxic by any means with Baker there, with OBJ there, like it didn't work for a little bit, but it did. At one point it did. They won a playoff game against the Steelers. They almost beat the Chiefs, and I don't know if the Chiefs win that game without your favorite rule happening, fumbling into the end zone.
Yeah, yep.
So who knows? Who knows?
That was the game that Mahomes got hurt and Chad Henne picked up the first down.
Yep. Yeah. So who knows if they win that game? Things are completely different in Cleveland. But, yeah, I think it has to be win the Super Bowl or this whole entire contract is for nothing.
This also is a significant blow to any player that was hoping to get a contract like this ever again.
Oh, yeah.
And this was that rare opportunity. This is why we kept saying, by the way, when Lamar Jackson was asking reportedly for a similar deal, while we kept saying the Ravens will not give in. They're not going to give in and pay Lamar what the Browns gave Watson. That was not going to be the new standard for contracts for quarterbacks or for anybody for that matter. You were going to have to go to the contract before Deshaun Watson signed his deal. And that's what they did. And Lamar and the Ravens, I think, to some degree, kind of came to his senses and said, all right, that was an exception. It'll never happen again, especially in wake of what we've seen now with Deshaun Watson. I'm going to get my money, though. I'm going to be the highest paid quarterback for a minute until the next guy comes up, because it's going to be Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. And that is how it goes when it comes to quarterback contracts. But we will never see a contract again like the one that Deshaun Watson signed with the Browns.
Is this the worst contract in sports history?
It might be the worst contract in sports history.
I'm trying to think of another one. I can't.
You think of like some of the long-term deals that were signed in
Anthony
baseball.
Rendon.
That one's bad. I think it still pales comparison, because baseball, it's hard as it is, because baseball, the contracts are guaranteed no matter what. Like even if you go back and say, okay, some of these 10-year contracts, right? Yeah. Like the one that Albert got. Albert was good with the Angels early on, and then toward the middle of that contract, certainly it's at the end. That's when you start to say, okay, the money's not worth the production at this point. But it took a while. Albert was still very good early on.
Well, and Albert is one of the best baseball players to ever play play the game. Whereas Deshaun Watson hadn't even played football an entire year. Well, plus, he has all the off-field issues going on. Yes. And then you decide to make him the highest paid quarterback and give him the guarantees, which we know the NFL rarely does. Mm-hmm. They hate giving guaranteed money to people.
Yeah. There's always a guaranteed portion of the contract, but nobody's ever guaranteed the full thing.
But that's the thing. The Browns have placed themselves in such a terrible situation because they don't know how to build a team. They haven't done a good enough job of it over the course of 10 to 20 years. Mm-hmm. And so, they put themselves in that situation to where they think they have a good enough team to make the playoffs. They needed a quarterback that could propel them forward, and they thought wrong on Deshaun Watson. Maybe if they get him 5 years ago, they're a Super Bowl contending
Right.
team.
And Houston's not giving them up 5 years ago because he hadn't the transgressions had not come to light yet.
For sure.
So yeah, it's just a bad deal all the way around. It's Fastlane on 101 ESPN. We do have our Gauntlet Playoffs continuing next, and we have who do we have next?
It is Patty.
We have Patty back. All right, so Patty's going to make her return. She won the Gauntlet earlier this year, and she is our 7th returner, Marsh. I'm asking you every day now. 7?
I think it's 7
out of 10?
Yeah.
All right, so Patty is up next, and she'll either choose her category or she'll choose her opponent. And Dan McLaughlin is also here as well. He's filling in for the next 2 hours as Jamie Rivers travels. Stay with the Blues. But the Gauntlet is next on 101 ESPN.
categories, one challenger. Can you master the gauntlet?
Brought to you by Master, your hometown source for business communications for more than 30 years. Visit masstour.com.
4:01, your time check is brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Dan McLaughlin in for the next 2 hours. Danny Mac, how are you?
I'm doing great. Marshy, good to see you. Anthony, great to be with you.
Good to
2
see you,
hours.
Dan.
Let's roll, man. Let's do it.
Go. Dan's ready to go.
Let's do it.
We're going to get 2 o'clock, Dan, at 4 o'clock, and I'm fired up for that.
Wait a minute. What happened? Do I go downhill at 4 o'clock?
We all do.
Oh, I understand.
No, typically it's 5.
Did you eat that potluck they had in there?
Dude, I just had a brownie that...
You may be going down, too. You're gonna get, it's like turkey insomnia or whatever. Not turkey insomnia. What is it?
Tryptophan.
Tryptophan, thank you.
What is that?
It's what's in turkey that makes you apparently sleepy.
Yeah, you get real tired.
Oh, is that why I'm always falling asleep?
I always felt it was
pound of food that you eat and the digestion slows you down, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, hey, guys, this is the playoffs.
Let's go.
We gotta focus up. All right, so Patty
Dial it in.
is our latest Gauntlet champion that rejoins us for the Gauntlet Playoffs. What's up, Patty?
Not much. How are you?
Good to hear you again.
You too.
How you doing, Patty?
I'm good.
Well, good luck. I'm going to be polling for you. No doubt about it.
What the hell, Dan?
Yeah, these guys took too much food out of the potluck. I'm pulling for you, Patty.
Jeez. Now,
Let's
Patty,
go.
Patty, remind us, who did you beat to become Gauntlet champion?
Jamie and Random.
Jamie in Random. Okay, I like that. Now, Patty, have you been listening? And you could say, no, I don't, not to put you on the spot. Have you been listening to the Gauntlet Playoffs?
So, yeah, I have been listening to the Gauntlet Playoffs.
Okay, so as you know, you have an opportunity to take either the category or the opponent. But if you choose the category, you got to stick with the category if you advance. Now, that doesn't mean that if you choose baseball, you get baseball, but you will have to stick with the category round if you advance. If you choose the opponent, then you can just continue to pick your opponent. So what would you like to do? Would you like to pick your category or your opponent?
Is it just you and Marsh today?
It is just Marsh and I today, yes.
Okay, then I'm going to pick the category.
Okay. What category would you like, Patty?
I'm going to start with Random this time.
You're going to start with Random. That's not a bad idea. Okay. So you'll get either Marsh or I. Now, Marsh has played a bunch of Gauntlet Playoffs. I've yet to play one.
Well, that just means that you might be the closer for some of these contestants. Usually I've been the closer through the regular season.
You have. You're right. All right, Patty, without further ado, tell Marsh to spin that wheel.
Marsh, spin that wheel.
All right, so it's either going to be me or it's going to be Marsh in Random against Patty.
Spin that wheel.
As Dan is yelling.
Had too much sugar.
It will be Marsh again. The wheel hasn't even slowed down, or it just started. It was going to land dead on Marsh. So you get Marsh, Patty.
Okay.
What is going on here?
Patty's got that flat.
Dial in, Marsh. Let's go.
Patty's got kind of that flat line demeanor, which scares me.
All business.
It's all business. This is why she won a Gauntlet trophy beforehand.
No doubt about it.
Okay, but also let's keep in mind that the sequel is never as good as the original, so let's just lead with that.
There's some sequels that are better. You got Godfather 2, of course. That's the
sure.
The one everybody mentions.
Maybe even Rocky 2. Maybe. I mean, you can make a case for it. Watched Rocky the other day, and I really enjoyed Rocky 2.
There's some good sequels out there. Okay, Patty, you chose Random. The wheel chose Marshy. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Each question is worth 2 points unless you ask for the options. If you ask for the options, those questions are worth 1 point. Here we go. Where is the Korean War Veterans Memorial located? Where is the Korean War Veterans Memorial located?
Can I have the options?
Sure. Washington, D.C., Williamsburg, Virginia, or Cape Canaveral, Florida?
Pretty sure I saw this when I was in Washington, D.C. I'm going to say Washington, D.C. finally.
Okay.
All right. Question 2. In 1909, who became the first real person on a U.S. circulating coin? In 1909, who became the first real person on a U.S. circulating coin?
I feel like it's Susan B. Anthony, but I don't know if that would be too late.
And the options.
The options are Harriet Tubman, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln.
I think it's like wheat pennies. I'm going to go Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. Question 3, please.
You got it. Name the town in which the popular Netflix series Stranger Things is set. Name the town in which the popular Netflix series Stranger Things is set.
Hawkins, Indiana. Or Hawkins.
Final answer?
Final answer.
All right. What state has the official nickname of the Last Frontier? What state has the official nickname of the Last Frontier?
Oh, my God. Oh, the Last Frontier. It's almost, okay, so it almost has to be in the West. I feel like Oregon, but it would be like Wyoming. It's like, I feel like Wyoming's more.
Uh-oh. Are you still with it? Okay, Patty, there you go. We hear you much better now.
I'm so sorry. I was just like, I'm meandering to myself.
You're
about
fine.
which state would be.
You're fine.
I have the options.
The options would be Montana, Alaska, South Dakota.
Ooh, maybe South Dakota. See, Alaska was like the last one. I'm going to go Alaska final answer.
Alaska is your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Let's bring in Andrew Marsh. Patty, how you feeling?
Okay-ish.
I thought that was tough. That's
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Marsh.
Yeah, I think it's good, though.
Marsh is making his way back in from the cone of silence. He puts his phones on.
Hello.
Marsh, you ready to go?
I think so. My headphones are acting up.
Uh-oh.
I got my water today. I did not drink my water yesterday. That's why I lost.
Got to blame it on the water when you have an opportunity to. Okay. Marsh, in the Gauntlet random trivia, are you ready?
Yes.
Question 1. Where is the Korean War Veterans Memorial located? Where is the Korean War Veterans Memorial located?
Gonna need those options.
Washington, D.C., Williamsburg, Virginia, or Cape Canaveral, Florida?
I'm just going to go with Washington, D.C. Final answer.
Question 2. In 1909, who became the first real person on a U.S. circulating coin? In 1909, who became the first real person on a U.S. circulating coin?
Oh. Man, Dan, I have no idea. Let's go with Honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln on the penny. Final answer.
Okay. Final answer, Honest Abe.
Number 3, question 3. Name the town in which the popular Netflix series Stranger Things is set.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my gosh.
Think hard, please.
Oh. Why is this eluding me? It's, I'm going to get it if I use the options. I can't, for time purposes, this is like the Terrell Davis thing. Options.
Galveston, Texas, Cedar Point, Ohio, Hawkins, Indiana.
Gosh, Hawkins, Indiana, final answer.
Okay. What state has the official nickname of the Last Frontier? What state has the official nickname of the Last Frontier?
The Last Frontier.
That's correct.
Wow, these are tough. Let's go with the options. I feel like it's going to be a western state.
Montana, Alaska, South Dakota.
The Last Frontier.
That's correct.
Like space.
So I'm thinking, is it? That's what that was coming to my mind too. Like I'm trying to wrestle between, is it the farthest state west, which I think would be Hawaii anyways, or is it like the last state that was in the United States? Let's go with Montana.
Final answer?
Montana Grizz, final answer.
Okay. Anthony, take it away.
Let's go over these. What an epic battle.
Boy, what is it?
Wow.
Between Patty,
my goodness,
and Marsh.
Sounds like a 1-0 game.
Patty
These
chose
are really good questions.
Patty chose random. The wheel chose Marshy. Here we go. Question 1, Dan.
Yeah.
Where is the Korean War Veterans Memorial located? Patty, you went with Washington, D.C. Marsh, you went Washington, D.C. Correct answer is
Washington, D.C.
But both of you needed the options.
Yes,
1-1.
they did.
1-1 tie between Patty and Marsh.
Oh, my.
In 1909, who became the first real person on a U.S. circulating coin? Patty, you said Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln. Wow. Marsh, you said Honest Abe, Abraham Lincoln. Correct answer is
Abraham Lincoln.
But Marsh did not need the options on this.
He came out of nowhere with that one.
He swung from the hip, and he cashed.
That was impressive.
So Marsh has a 3-2 lead over Patty. Name the town in which the popular Netflix series Stranger Things is set. Marsh, you said Hawkins, Indiana. Patty, you said Hawkins, Indiana.
No.
Correct answer is
Hawkins, Indiana.
But Patty did not need the options on that one.
Oh, come on. You got to be kidding me.
We're all tied up at 4.
My kids would have been mad, especially my daughters. Mackenzie would have been so mad if I missed that.
But you didn't, Patty.
But, Patty, you didn't.
at all.
You come ready to win. That's all you're about dubs.
That's why I know that.
Yeah, you're all about them dubs.
4-4 tie.
Yeah.
Marsh and Patty have had the same exact answers on every single question.
Incredible.
Except for this one.
Oh, my.
What state has the official nickname of the last frontier? Patty, you took the options. You said Alaska. Marsh, you took the options. And you said Montana. If it's Montana, Marsh wins. If it's Alaska, Patty wins. If it's South Dakota, which was the other option, we've got ourselves an epic walk-off. Dan, what state has the official nickname of the last frontier?
Joe Morgan. Oh, no, that was 2 weeks ago.
That was a couple of weeks ago? Not the right answer.
The last frontier, Alaska.
Patty.
You have chosen wisely.
Patty wins today 5-4 in one of the better gauntlets that you're going to be able to listen to. Patty, you got every single question right. You asked for the options for 3 of the 4. The one I think that really saved you, though, besides Alaska, of course, was making sure that you remembered the Hawkins, Indiana. Marsh did not. That cost him the tiebreaker. Patty, you win today. Wow. Congratulations. You've survived and advanced, so you'll hang out for a little bit until we get to round 2 of the Gauntlet Playoffs. Congratulations.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
All right.
Good job, Patty.
Thanks.
There you have it. It's Marsh.
Dude.
You know it, too. You knew it.
Dude, I watch Stranger Things all the time. That was one of those questions that I felt like I screwed up on. I don't know how I couldn't remember that.
I love when we go into the post-mortem of the breakdown. Yeah.
Well, Marsh really wears his emotions on his
He sure does.
I mean, we all do, but I think Marsh does it more than anybody.
I think it's because, like, those other 3 questions, like, I'm going to be, like, I had no idea. The Honest Abe one,
I would have got
completely
destroyed.
guessed.
I would have got absolutely destroyed in this.
But, like, the Stranger Things question is one that I 100% should get, and I'm upset with myself.
I'm sorry, Marsh.
So, but I'm happy for Patty. She's moving on.
Sure you are.
Patty's, 4-0 now.
Yeah.
Gauntlet.
That's
She's
impressive.
Just rolling. And all 4 questions she got right. She thought through them, and she was kind of breaking it down in her head. And
have you guys ever caught, and I'm not saying Patty did this, so don't take this the wrong way, Patty, but do you think anybody, like, drags it out to maybe go to the old Google machine?
There are certain we've never...
And again, I'm not accusing Patty. I'm just a generic question about the Gauntlet.
We have never called anybody out on it, but there have been times where there's like this delay, and then it's it's Washington. He's like,
yeah, where'd that come from?
What did
It was kind of like you came out with Abe Lincoln, like at the last second when we watch you. You have no help. You're just sitting there doing it. So that was good. That was good.
Thank you, Dan.
It was a fine performance.
You did a hell of a job.
Thank you. We don't call out potential cheaters of the gauntlet.
No.
But the listeners do.
Absolutely.
The listeners
do they
have good
ever?
Intuition.
Yes. I do not think Patty was cheating.
No. I want to go on the record again and say I'm not being accusatory of Patty.
Yes.
I'm a fill-in guy. I listen to the show all the time, and I'm just wondering I'm a curious guy.
Dan, that's how you learn.
Thanks,
how you learn. And you always got to be
Thanks.
learning. You always
I need
gotta
to
ask some
apologize
questions.
too.
Why?
I turned on the light in here because I can't see.
Yeah,
You know
well,
what?
I did get blinded here for a second. But you know what? Now I've adjusted.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Dan, it's
good.
okay.
Can't see, man.
Dan, it's going to be pitch black outside here in about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It'll be good. All right, boys, let's move on here. Just like Patty did in the gauntlet. So Skip Schumacher won the NL Manager of the Year.
Good for Skip.
Congratulations for Skip. Everybody's happy for him. And if you're a diehard Cardinals fan that was already ticked off at Mo, you want him fired like 3 years ago. I've got a question for you, though, Dan, as it applies to Skip and last year's Cardinals team. We'll get to that next on 101 ESPN. not surprisingly, Skip Schumacher won NL Manager of the Year. Congratulations to Skip.
Yeah.
Awesome human being. Came through the Cardinals organization. One of my favorite players, kind of in that decade. I just enjoyed watching Skip Schumacher play, and always appreciated how he went. Was he start second and then go to the outfield, or outfield then to second?
Either way,
outfield
then to second.
I always appreciated that. He worked with Okendo. And, another great job by Okendo.
Yeah.
Turning Skip into a really good second baseman.
He would go out in his there's a park by his house out in Southern California, and his dad would just pound ground balls at him.
Really?
So they went to him prior to the offseason beginning and saying, hey, is this something, it was kind of being talked about at the end of the year. And basically he said, we're going to have a spot at second. If you want to be an everyday player, this could be a pathway to that. And to his credit, worked his ass off and got himself in a position to, be in consideration for that. They continue to work on it during spring training. Yes, Jose Okendo was a big part of it, but, a lot of the credit goes to him and being able to turn himself, who's been an exceptional outfielder. He's a really good outfielder. He had a cannon for an arm. And to make that transition and not let it carry over to your offense when you have those tough days, and he had a few of those. Yeah. That's a credit to him, man. It's a great player to be able to do that.
He did a great job in Miami, so he wins National League Rookie of the Year. And, of course, Cardinals fans are equal parts happy for Skip. I don't want to overlook that, because Cardinals fans appreciate what somebody like Skip meant to the organization. And when he goes on, he has success. They are praising him. They're celebrating him. There also is the sense, of course, of like, oh, well, we're now stuck with Ollie, and Skip used to be the bench coach and all that. Here's my question to you, though, just putting things into perspective. If Skip Schumacher is your manager with the exact same roster, do you think things changed dramatically last year?
No.
I don't either.
And I also think the perspective of the fans is different with each guy. Skip has won a World Series, 2 of them here in St. Louis, was part of 06 and was part of 11. In many ways, he was beloved. He was really active in the community. And so a lot of people got to know him for a number of years being here in St. Louis. And I think fans are still trying to figure out Ollie. He's a young manager. He's had one good year, one bad year. And so he doesn't have the runway, if you will, that Skip is given and earned by being here for a longer period of time and a beloved figure in Cardinals history. So if you have that bad year with Skip, I think you'd have the skeptics going, well, he's a first-time manager. He needed to go get experience somewhere else and then come back here. I think it would have been minimal, because he did get a lot of credit being a bench coach. And I was there. I mean, he challenged Ollie in a lot of ways. On the bench, he's saying, I would do this, or maybe we need to take a look at this. And he was the conduit. He was so good at this. He was the conduit between Ollie and the player, and on both sides. So if Ollie had an issue with a player, yes, he will go to that player. But sometimes the player it falls on deaf ears because they've heard it too much. So Skip was the guy that could deliver good and bad news. And the player, when they're upset and they're hot about playing time or how they're getting used or where they're at in the lineup, they could use the ear of Skip Schumacher and he'd listen and then take that to Ollie. So Skip has been, well-versed in many different areas of playing Major League Baseball, now coaching. And let's face it, when you're under Tony La Russa for a lot of years, it's going to be beneficial. Mm-hmm. Then he went and played at different spots. I think that's beneficial to get a different set of eyes to how you're going to do your job, watching other people. And he deserves a ton of credit. Now, I will say this real quickly. Mm-hmm. It's the Miami Marlins. And so if you go down there and have a modicum of a success and you get in, it seems like you're going to get a lot more credit than maybe somebody else. And probably deservedly so, because your payroll is lower, expectations aren't as high, but their pitching was pretty good. Yeah. And that shows you if you got decent pitching. I mean, their lineup is not like Murderer's Row.
No.
They got
some. They have the batting champ.
Yeah,
obviously.
That's the one that you go to.
Right. And what's his name? The second baseman, Luis Arraez.
Luis Arraez, yeah.
So they get the
two-time batting champion now.
But other than that, you're right. I mean, they've got some young, promising hitters. But Jazz Chisholm, he hasn't really cashed in on the success he had 2 years ago. But anyways, regardless, I thought you brought up something that really interesting when you're talking about the conduit between the Ollie and the players, and that being Skip. And I wonder if people that are already down on Ollie, they hear that and they say, well, okay, so Skip is a better communicator.
No, that's not it at all.
I take what you said as that is necessary. Think of a two-parent household.
Yeah.
I mean, I get this sometimes, with my wife, where we've got 3 kids. They all have different needs, obviously, different human beings, and I could talk to my daughter in a certain way, and maybe I'm a little hard on her or what she did, and Kristen could come in and say, hey, this is what daddy means, and she can. And
it's a great analogy.
Yeah. Am I doing it wrong? Yeah, probably. Is my wife doing it right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
But it's just a different way to communicate.
Yep.
I think what you brought up in that sometimes too, when, if Ollie's hot or like I'm hot, I'm ticked off, whatever, and I'm ranting and raving, I'm not listening either. I don't have that empathy. And I think you need that within a clubhouse or a household or whatever, different voices at different times.
I think, too, that you learn about the manager as that person gets further along in their job. They starting to lighten up with certain aspects. Maybe they learn how to do something differently. They self-evaluate in things that they would like to do differently, that they say, I was deficient there. Or I could have been better with the media here. I need to be out doing more with this, whatever.
Sure.
But here's the bottom line. Here is the absolute bottom line. If you win, it doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can sit there and dissect this any way you want. And when you come off a season that the Cardinals just had, which was horrible, fingers get pointed. Where does it get pointed first? Probably front office. And then after that, it's going right at Ollie.
Yep.
I mean, he didn't all of a sudden become a bad manager the second year that he took the previous year to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now, you take Molina off that, and you deal with Contreras behind the plate. Huge drop-off. Second half of the season, Albert Pujols could be the MVP of the league.
Right.
He's an awesome leader behind the scenes. Yachty, awesome leader behind the scenes. I mean, there was a lot of things that were not a part of this team that was out of the control of Ollie Marmol.
Right.
And so, I think this last year is an outlier from a fan's perspective. I don't expect them to be like that this year. And if they are, then they've got real problems.
A lot of things that are different, none bigger than not having the pitching.
Oh,
you didn't have
100%.
You did not have the pitching.
Yeah.
And that's the point, bringing up the perspective of if Skip was the manager here, I don't know if everything is different because he, too, would not have the pitching necessary to win games.
And I think, though, he would have gotten more of a cushion than maybe Ollie's getting right now. I mean, people are upset. We're not used to this in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So he's a young manager, doesn't have a huge resume of being a manager in the major leagues. He's got 1 year prior to this year, so people are going to jump on him. I get that, and he gets that. Trust me, I've talked to him about it, and he understands that there's pressure to this job. Matter of fact, I've talked to him in the last week multiple times. I mean, he welcomes the fact that there are fans out there that are skeptical, and he understands it.
Yeah.
But he also understands that they need to get players, and they will, and they need to be better next year. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a wait-and-see thing. And you got to throw last year out the window. You learn some things that cannot be repeated this year. And moving forward, you got a better club, and that's the way you have to look at it.
No doubt.
Maybe we can get into this later, but going back to Skip Schumacher being sort of that bench coach that can relate more to the players and whatnot, get that message through. This is nothing against Joe McEwing by any means, but do you think that bench coach, and this can go, you can maybe relate it to hockey as well, any sport, do you think that bench coach or assistant coach needs to be a little bit younger to relate to the players nowadays that are younger, that came up differently?
Yeah, I don't think it's
a really good question.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if it's necessary, but it's probably something that should be considered, certainly.
I think it's more about respect. Mm-hmm. So if you're older, I think you walk in automatically and you've played 15 years in the big leagues and you're a bench coach, and those players go, that dude played 15 years in the major leagues.
Right.
That's automatic. But if you're younger, I think you can relate a little bit better to younger players. I mean, you just think about 2011 is an eternity ago on how the game was managed, how the game was played, how the game was looked at, and it really isn't that long ago. Mm-hmm. It's a little over a decade ago that the Cardinals won the World Series. And while it may seem like yesterday for some, it seems like a long time for others, but the game, man, has changed so much to where my point is that young people are coming through. Mm-hmm. And Red Shandy's told me the greatest thing ever. I said, Red, why do you do this? You dress out, you hit fungos. He's 70-something years old, and he said, young people keep me young.
Nice.
And I thought that was well put. And I think on the flip side, older people can help younger people understand.
No doubt.
If they have an open mind to it.
Yeah, well said.
So it's a little bit of both, I think, Marsh, you got to do.
Good, nice job there. That's Dan McLaughlin. I'm Anthony Stalter, Andrew Marsh. It's a Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. We got a Sports Six-Pack, at least part one of it, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You got a question for us, send it there, and maybe we'll have it read in the Sports Six-Pack next. Tomorrow night, we've got Ravens and we've got Bengals. And then we've got a full slate in the NFL on Sunday. And as the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Here, right now, here's the deal. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line play. That's $150 if your team wins. You don't have to worry about the point spread. You don't have to worry about them covering some big number. It just has to be a money line play. So look at the slate this weekend, find the team that you like, and if you do a $5 wager and your team wins, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line play. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app, it's easy to use, wide range of betting options that include spreads, player props. You've got your same game parlays and much more. You got to try it out. It's FanDuel.
You can do it all over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/fast and kick off the NFL season. That's FanDuel.com/fast. 21 and over and present in Illinois. First online real money wager. Only $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issues non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Blues won last night by a final score of 5-0 over the Tampa Bay Lightning. We talked earlier today with Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider from The Athletic. If you missed that interview, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Blues will take on the Sharks tomorrow night. Pregame starts at 8:30. Puck drop is at 9:30. We have our Sports Six-Pack coming up next, so if you have a question, send it our way to the Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. Sports Six-Pack coming up next. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff. Find new roads and shop 24/7 at Londoff.com and LondoffAutoplex.com. Are you kidding me?
I have a question. It's time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is refreshed by Maggie O'Brien's, your go-to Irish pub in St. Louis for over 42 years.
So as we normally do, we'll break this up into a couple of different segments. But without further ado, Dan, I think you have honors.
Question one, please.
Question number one.
Had a lot of oomph to it.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, Marshy.
Especially on the please.
Question one, please.
All right, guys, from the 217, Cardinals promo schedule is out. What is your must-have promo item? Mine personally, my favorite is bobbleheads and fireworks.
They give you fireworks as a promo?
That was a joke. That's only in Seattle.
I think, though, on a serious note, this will give you a little bit of an indication of where the fan base is at. Now, you're going to have some people that every July 17th, if the club is at home, they're going to buy that ticket pack because they say, I want to go there, and it's our reunion of our family, or it's a little Johnny's birthday, and we always go. Mm-hmm. But it'll be interesting, probably up until Christmas, to see what ticket sales are like, and I'm sure there's some fans, not all, that'll say, I'm in a wait-and-see process right now. I want to see what the club does. I want to see what the pitching staff looks like. I want to see what kind of money they spend. And if and when they do, I'll decide on my tickets. Again, that's not everybody, but that's probably some of the fan base. Yeah. I would say not a huge portion either. I don't think so. I think a lot of people love just going to the ballpark.
Yeah, I do too. And they might not buy season tickets, but they appreciate Busch Stadium and check out a few games per year, maybe bring the family later.
Exactly.
The promo schedule, though, I would say the kids' Rawlings baseball glove. I think that looks cool. I think my kids would get a kick out of it.
Who's are they giving it with somebody's name on it?
Just Rawlings. First 10,000 kids, 15 and younger, entering with a ticket.
I did
Sunday,
my golf
June
tournament
30th.
This year, and Adam Wainwright signed for me for our auction, and our silent auction, a guitar.
Did he?
He signed a guitar for the guitar giveaway. He signed one. Yeah, it was very nice of him.
I think my favorite one is the Blues Cardinals jersey.
I just looked at that.
Cool.
The adult
Those are
Cardinals
always
hockey
cool.
sweater. Yeah,
I like what they do with that.
They've got. I'll give the Cardinals a lot of credit. I feel like they got really good giveaways. I think the Blues do a good job too.
The 310, I think. I can't see it. I love how Dan always goes off topic and never answers the question with laughing emojis. I try to answer the question, but I have a lot of... and this person that's texting in is 100% right.
Dan's got 4 hours of content in his head that we have to...
I jump around too much. I get it.
No.
We got 2 hours worth of Dan.
Here's the thing about the fast lane, okay? Nothing is off topic.
Yeah.
And eventually... we'll find the road again.
I try to come back.
We're going to do some detours.
You know,
but no, that's what I'm saying, Dan. It's not about staying on the road.
It's about the journey.
It's about the journey. It's about the road trip.
I am, so you guys throw something at me, and then I go down one avenue, and then I start thinking wait a minute, that leads to this way, and then I could do this, and I could talk, and then I'd forget what I'm supposed to talk about. So that's on
Stream
me.
of consciousness.
Question 2, please. I do know that.
Question number 2.
I like this question from the 479. Do you think a streaming series following Major League Baseball would help boost baseball's popularity like Drive to Survive has done with Formula One?
That's interesting. I think any
Hold on,
series.
do you mind saying that again? Streaming series.
So yeah,
Like a Netflix.
Do you think like a streaming series following the World Series and following the Major League Baseball's season essentially? Would that be good for the game to increase popularity while we wait for the hot stove and for the 2024 year to get back in?
I think it would be great.
Things.
I think it'd be great for Texas Rangers fans this year. Last year, I think it would have been great for who the hell won it last year? Houston. The Houston fans.
You're saying like to produce a look back at the World Series, but have it in time of having guys talk about it during the World Series.
Well, I'm not even thinking about World Series. I'm thinking about some of the most important moments of the season. So if we want to go back to last year, I think Albert Pujols' run to 700 would be one of those storylines. Obviously, Adam Wainwright and Yadier Molina.
Cardinals did that, though.
I'm saying for an entire MLB, you'd also throw some other storylines in there as well. You produce it at the end of the World Series. You throw it out on Netflix or whatever, so people have more baseball content.
Multiple storylines,
much like quarterback. Like they're following different storylines.
I'll tell you what. As much as I have said too on these airwaves, hey, baseball's going to do a better job of promoting its stars. They do, but I've come to accept that baseball is a very regional sport.
100%.
I don't think that
100%.
Even Albert, as much as he's meant to the game, I don't think a Texas Rangers fan will care about that storyline. I don't, because baseball too. Let's not forget, baseball's a very romantic sport. We get romantic about like the players that play, the statistics, and all that. Peek behind the curtain, I think, only works for that fan base. Whereas quarterback, a peek behind the curtain, you're like very interested. Football, there's still a lot of interest in like what the players do. The playbooks, the systems, and all that.
I would say this though: if you could have gone, I do think this would add national appeal, and I could be wrong. I think if you could have gone truly behind the scenes and called it Quest for 700. And what I mean is Albert going from home to the ballpark, making his kids meals, what he does in preparation for the game. I mean, truly behind the scenes, not just following him going up the stairs to go to the bus.
Right.
I mean, you are entrenched with him, and he knows it. He's putting a microphone on the minute he wakes up. Quest to 700, I think, would have national appeal, but I still don't think it would have the national appeal of the QB show on Netflix.
I hate to say this. There wouldn't have been enough drama. Dan, think of the one. I mean, we did
Aaron
a show.
Judge though breaking the American League home run record in the same year as Albert. You don't think those two storylines in itself would
no
grab viewership?
And Marshy, I love baseball. I mean, I adore the game. Right. I take it with its flaws and with its bad eras, and I don't care. I love it. And I still don't think the national appeal is there.
No.
Interesting.
I think if you did it for football, yes.
Well, yeah, no, it definitely worked with quarterback.
All right, here, let's take it this way. So you have on ESPN, there's 3 different teams that are going behind the scenes. It's Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss. And they're all having like a behind-the-scenes road to LSU or whatever they're calling it. I'm enthralled watching it. I think, and as big a baseball fan as I am, I think I'd be more interested in watching that than I would on some other baseball guy. Now, Albert's different because I know Albert, and I was around it, and I loved it, and it was fun, but I don't know, man. Football is just national appeal.
I think there's got to be some drama, too. Think of the Johnny Manziel feature.
Yes.
We all watched the Johnny Manziel documentary. There's some drama behind it. I enjoyed. I'm not a Florida Gators fan. I enjoyed the Gators.
Loved it.
One. And I thought it was a bit of a fluff piece.
I thought so too.
They overlooked some of the problems that they had down in Florida.
Yeah, a certain tight end that maybe had some issues.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But there was some drama and some intrigue there. I don't think that. I mean, for baseball to have the national appeal, I think it would have to be almost like a Barry Bonds villain type thing.
Yeah.
Very polarizing.
Here's the thing with baseball, and let's say that this thing would work. I think baseball's problem is that they wouldn't put it on Netflix. They put it on Apple TV. And then people definitely probably won't be watching.
Well, that's part of the problem too with the streaming service.
Well, the younger people stream if they can, they'll stream it.
They don't care.
But when you get to like my age and older, even though there's a lot of people that do stream, the majority of those that stream are going to be younger. So are they going to want to watch The Quest for 700? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing with those streaming services, like Netflix, those have a ton of movies and TV shows that people know, right? I can't really say the same for Apple TV. They do have some really good shows, and I've watched a few of them. But they don't have.
Ted Lasso was on it.
Ted Lasso was on Apple TV. A show called Severance for people out there that haven't seen. You've seen it. Great show. Probably doesn't get as recognized as some Netflix TV series.
Right.
But they don't have the catalog as much as Netflix, Max, Disney Plus.
Very true.
They don't have the catalog. So
would you guys want a? I'm getting very emotional about this.
Yeah, you're thinking about this. Yeah.
This
baseball's romantic.
It is.
You said it yourself, Dan.
Yep.
This just gets to be. Would you want a Hard Knocks version of spring training?
Ooh. If it was on the Cardinals, yeah.
But you'd have to have a storyline like.
If it's on the Mariners, then no. I don't care.
Like going into last season or 2 seasons ago, they were talking about Aaron Judge potentially getting to 62. So, I don't know. Would you want to see that all the way through? Would you want to just see, so if a team went out this year and signs Aaron Nola, Yamamoto, Blake Snell, so they make the biggest splash in free agency and then add a few other players, but they just go for broke.
Yeah.
Would you want to see a Hard Knocks spring training type show on that team?
I would want to know the behind the scenes of the negotiation and the setting up of an off season. That I would be interested in. And I don't care what team it is.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. But you have to your earlier point, you'd have to really go behind the scenes. You'd have to give us something.
So what about behind the scenes at the winter meetings? Taking a look at the 3 most active GMs and then maybe throw in a Scott Boras.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And just hear them talk and say, look.
Because it's something we speculate about, but we don't know.
It would never happen. But say I represented Marshy and you have the camera on me and I'm saying, look, Marshy is worth $80 million. You guys are coming at me for
hell yeah, I am.
75. No way am I doing that. It's got to be 80 and we want a suite and we want private travel.
Right.
And his family's got to, I'd love to see how that is drawn up.
Why are you disrespecting me with that kind of offer, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Marsh.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
I'm
in my corner. Oh, you're the cameraman?
I'm the cameraman. That's what Dan said.
Who's the cameraman?
Who's asking questions?
I don't know.
Who's negotiating?
You're asking questions next because we got our Sports Six Pack continued.
Well, that was long. I went into a lot of different directions.
We're going to get back on the road. All right, Sports Six Pack Part 2 next on 101 ESPN.
time for the Fast Lane to answer your sports questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Asking me all these weird questions.
Answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer me!
The Sports Six-Pack is refreshed by Maggie O'Brien's, your go-to Irish pub in St. Louis for over 42 years.
All right, time for the second part of the Sports Six-Pack. Dan, go ahead.
Question 3, please.
Question number 3.
We may only make 3.
All right, gentlemen, from the 314, what sides are you guys looking forward to the most on Thanksgiving?
All of them.
Little sweet potato mash there.
Stuffing, my mom's stuffing, which was a recipe handed down to my mom from my grandmother.
Really?
It's unbelievable.
Nice.
It's got probably a vat of butter in it, and it's probably the most unhealthy thing you can eat, but it's so good.
I'm interested.
Yeah.
Yeah, stuffing's awesome. I don't think... If we're going to do kind of a power rankings, I think stuffing's number 1.
Do you go turkey? Do you guys go duck? Do you go ham? What do you do?
We go traditional turkey.
Yep, we do too. Mm-hmm. We do too. Marshy? Well, you're coming over, Marshy, this year.
Yeah, Dan. So, I mean, I really, whatever you throw out on the table, I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
We established yesterday when BT was on the show that we do not care if the food is touching.
Yeah, we go savage route.
Savage route for sure.
Let it rip.
Damn right.
Throw some gravy on it.
You got it.
Yep.
I'm a big, everyone loves stuffing. I like stuffing. That's an essential, though.
Like a green bean casserole.
Green bean casserole. I mean, cheesy potatoes.
Yeah, those are good.
Great. Isn't it amazing? Like, I don't know when you guys eat. We eat like around like 11.
Oh, you're early.
11.
Do you guys have to go to different families?
We don't usually.
Okay.
We're going to do it this year, but when like 5 or 6 o'clock comes around,
you're hungry again.
I've eaten so much though throughout the day. I'm like, there cannot be a possible way to eat anymore.
Yeah.
Then I find myself having what would be on a normal day even a bigger dinner than that.
Yeah.
I mean, what's wrong with you?
Nothing.
What's wrong with me?
Absolutely nothing.
There's
too
nothing
much.
wrong with that.
No.
I mean, you got to eat some food for the late night football game.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, you're a red-blooded American. Nothing wrong with you.
I do like the sweet potatoes.
Yeah, the sweet potato
with
marshmallows
on them.
Yeah,
man, those are good.
I call it a marshmallow surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Is that like in honor of Marsh?
No, that's why I've called it that.
Okay,
I don't know.
Right.
It's got the marshmallows, it's got the sweet potatoes.
Okay.
Cranberries. The surprise comes
you
in.
like cranberries?
I like cranberries with
Never
the
had
turkey.
one.
I like the cranberry.
Really?
Like the cranberry
in the can or
probably in the can. Yeah.
I like both. I like the can though.
Yeah.
I kind of like just going straight to dessert.
It's not a bad idea either.
No.
Pumpkin pie can't go wrong.
Randy's carrot cake down the hall, by the way.
Have we officially... Do we know officially that that's his carrot cake? Because I think it is. And it's unbelievable.
It must. Well, with that reaction, I think it probably is.
I've never had carrot cake. I don't care what dessert place you are out there. It does not match to Randy's carrot cake. It's that good.
Sounds like you just threw down a gauntlet challenge.
Well, I mean, if somebody wants to bring in some carrot cake, we'll go through a little taste testing.
Yeah, we certainly don't mind that.
Question 4, please.
Question number 4.
From the 618, how do you change a perennial losing football team into a winner? The university my kids attend is winless for the past 2 seasons and 2 for the last 3.
Ouch.
Start buying players. Yeah.
Buying players helps. Getting the right people in place. You make the right hire, things start to fall into place. It's all about leadership.
I'd be curious where this school is located. Mm-hmm. I would imagine it's harder to turn around. This could be a really dumb statement, or it might be very smart. You know football better than I.
No.
Depending on where you're located and trying to get the local kid to come out and stay, really try to keep you within the borders of not just the state, but maybe the area. Like, for instance, and I know it's a bad example, what Howard Schnellenberger did with Miami.
Yeah.
Keeping those kids in state and believing in going to Miami. Mm-hmm. Now, where's your talent? Miami, Texas,
California.
Arizona, California. If you're one of those schools, I think maybe you can turn around a little quicker than others.
Yeah, you're also competing with everybody that wants to go in those states. Kirby Smart did that too. Kirby Smart shut down the borders because he was sick of hearing how Alabama, well, he would know because he
was
coached,
doing some of the recruiting.
Yeah, he was coaching for Alabama with Nick Saban, going into Georgia and taking the 5-star recruits. So that was the first thing he did. He shut down the borders. 5-star recruits from Georgia typically started going to Georgia. So that was the first thing he did. But he's a leader. It's like any company. You want to start a good company, have a good products, right? But you have to have the leadership in place, and that's easier said than done. But why did Georgia turn around? Kirby Smart. Why did Alabama, who was nothing, but it was Bear Bryant, long ass pause, Nick Saban. Why did they turn things? Because of Nick Saban.
Yeah, I think this year for Mizzou, if they go, let's say 10-2 into that bowl game, a lot of it will be remembered because of the St. Louis kids.
Yeah.
And local kids.
Ton, right? Like 22 or something like that?
Yeah. And then think about like Brady Cook is your QB.
Yep.
Schrader, local kid. Luther Burden, local kid.
Yep.
There's an affinity towards local kids doing well at the state school. Just it is what it is.
Yep. All right, that'll do it. We didn't get through 6, but we got what's trending coming up. So
okay, same thing.
Good. Maybe I'll carry over
sports discussions.
A few questions
next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN.
What's trending in the world of sports? The Fast Lane has you covered. What's trending now?
Brought to you by Goodwill. Donate to Goodwill to win a magical Polar Express staycation.
Welcome back to the Fast Lane here on 101 ESPN. We have Anthony Stalter. Danny Mack is filling in for Jamie today. And we have What's Trending. I'm Andrew Marsh. We got a question, which would be question 5. But I wanted to bring it back.
Question 5, please.
Thank you, Dan. I wanted to sort of bring that into What's Trending because this is trending. From the 618, Jeff Passan reported today that the on-base pitch clock could possibly be decreasing from 20 to 18 seconds. Do you think this will have any effect?
I think it will, because if they didn't do the evaluation to drop it even further,
that's a good point.
Then they wouldn't have done it. So I think that they feel that it will have an impact. Now I'm going to go off topic. I know you're shocked with this. It makes me think about the young kid that they have in the minor leagues, that Victor Scott kid, the Cardinals. Have you seen him or heard about him?
Just won the Gold Glove.
Yeah, just won the Gold Glove. He can fly. Mm-hmm. I got to wonder, he's in the Arizona Fall League. How far is he away from joining the St. Louis Cardinals? Like, what do they think internally is ETA? And if they feel that it's fairly soon, what does that mean for Tommy Edman? Mm-hmm. I think Tommy Edman's going to the outfield. I do. I think it'll be Newpar, Edman, and Walker. Now, where's Tyler O'Neill? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's going to be with the Cardinals.
Vegas.
So I could see that. Where's Dylan Carlson? Not sure. Maybe Vegas, maybe with the Cardinals. I don't know.
Yankees.
Maybe so. But my point is, with not knowing when Victor Scott is going to come here, I was just thinking about this today. Because I saw he got the Gold Glove, read a lot of things about him, seen his ridiculous numbers with base stealing. They think he's going to hit for a little bit more power than he is and drive the ball. If that is a guy that you're counting on potentially to be a everyday center fielder, what does that mean then for Tommy Edman? I don't know, just something to think about.
Yeah, they got some time, right?
Well, that's my point. Like, what is the ETA for this young man?
Does it ever? Let me ask you this though: does it ever work out that way? To where it's like,
doesn't seem to.
Perfect, good. We got this veteran. He's done in 2 years, and then we're good. And we got this young guy coming up. Either the veteran keeps playing well, and you can't move on from him because that would be, killing yourself when it comes to your talent, or the young guy he isn't ready at that time.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah.
I would love for him to be on this team, get a little bit more speed, and going back to that pitch clock thing and the rules with pitchers and disengagements and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I think the Cardinals could use some of that speed, get some guys in scoring position. Now, last season, they had trouble getting those runners in at some points throughout the year. Anthony, just go back and watch the tape.
Okay.
Or not. I actually wouldn't put that on anybody.
Yeah.
But
thank you, Marsh.
Yeah. But I mean, a guy like that with some speed. You also have Mason Wynn, another fast runner. I wonder what this team looks like in the next few years in terms of moving away from big boppers to getting back to that speed game. Or maybe they have a collection of both, and that's what makes them a really good team moving forward.
I think generally speaking, people really like the pitch clock.
Yeah,
I think people thought it was good for the game.
The flow, the flow improved. There's really no, to me, there's no debate.
I don't disagree one bit. If you can even make it quicker, I would do it, which is what they're going to try to do. Now, you start thinking about how many pitches, what does that mean seconds-wise? What does that add up to for a game? What does it do for a pitcher? I always looked at the pitch clock having a major, going into last year, I thought it would have a major effect on relievers. The reason I felt that way is that relievers are max effort. And so, they're all max effort now, but in particular, Jordan Hicks is out there throwing 102.
Yeah.
Ryan Helsley's throwing 103. Well, you got to catch your breath a little bit. You got to get yourself back. You got to get it geared up. You got to be ready to go. And if you're forced then to pitch, you're still, you're huffing and puffing a little bit, and the velocity drops a little bit. What does that mean? Maybe a better chance to get offense in the game. I think we saw a little bit of that. Yeah. So I'd be curious with their studies of just how much does it pick up the pace in the game.
Yeah.
Did you guys see last night the Warriors and Timberwolves game?
Oh, yeah.
Draymond Green.
Right in the middle of it.
Well, like he usually is.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on Draymond Green, potential suspension, putting guys in headlocks? It's just him.
This might not be a popular opinion, but the NBA could benefit from it.
Yeah. It's not the worst thing.
I mean, I grew up as the NBA. My NBA was the 90s. And I realized
Pretty
that
rough.
even in the late 80s was definitely rough. 90s was still rough.
You had the Pistons, you had the Celtics.
You had teams that hated
Indiana.
each other. They hated each other.
Yeah.
It's the Charles Barkley saying, I would have never gone to play with some of these guys because I didn't like them.
What do you mean by rough? Because my 90s basketball, obviously I was only alive for a few years, didn't really watch it, but from what I can tell, it was a really good part of the NBA in terms of their league history. Some of the best players coming out of the 90s.
Yeah. I thought that the rivalries, maybe not rough might not be the right word, but I thought the rivalries were at its height in the 80s. And that's not fair because, look, I can't go back and I don't know what the 70s were like or even, the 80s outside of the late 80s. But
it's a different game.
It's a different game now.
Yeah.
You don't have the rivalries. You don't have that friction. When the Bulls and the Knicks were playing each other, and it was Jordan and Pippen and John Starks and Anthony Mason and obviously Patrick Ewing. They hated each other, and you knew something was going to happen because they just didn't like each other. Or like the Pacers starting to get,
the Pistons.
Everybody was Pistons in the late 80s.
Lambeer, Rodman.
I felt like there was different styles. Now I just feel like the league is largely homogenized.
Do you think basketball and we'll just talk about all four major sports? Do you think sports in general are going down in terms of entertainment?
I don't know about entertainment, but
like from where they were, like we talk about in the NBA, I'm assuming you think the 90s NBA was way better than what it is right now.
But here's the thing, though. You didn't see players jump because free agency has made this really hard, I think, for fans to get their claws into a player and say, that's my guy for the next 10 years.
Right.
So I think that's part of it.
And I fully admit that I'm biased with this. I'm biased.
I think football is the best it's ever been.
For you, just an entertainment standpoint, I think football kind of ebbs and flows with the quarterbacks.
That's true.
And right now we're seeing there's a lot of top end quarterbacks right now.
Is it good right now though?
You got Mahomes.
The product.
It is Mahomes and Burrow, and I'll tell you what the product is doing right now. Most of the games are pretty tight.
What do you have? 5 walk-offs this last weekend? 5.
You talk about watching a game start to finish or keeping your eye on it if you're watching like the red zone, and these games are coming down to the wire.
Don't you think part of it too is that the greater population is watching on television and the television product is sensational of the NFL?
Agreed.
I just think it's awesome.
Yeah. When I was covering the Rams, when we had the Rams here and we were the home of the Rams, going down to the stadium, forget about the fact that they weren't good, but being away from the TV product was one of the things that I missed. Yeah. Now, I didn't want to see the Rams leave in order to get that TV product back, but I did miss that, going home after and watching it the late window if the Rams played at noon. That was always
You
fun.
only have maybe for the 3 hours, 11, 12 minutes of action?
Yep.
Something like that. Yeah, Marshy, what you got?
I was just going to say, we got a text from the 618. Makes an interesting point. Sports are now less exciting to the casual fan. So I wonder if that is a thing where the casual fan's not really into sports as much as maybe they would have been 10, 20 years ago. But for the people that are really into football, really into hockey, maybe
they love it. Yeah.
They love it right now more than they have before.
Sure.
I wonder if that's a thing.
I just think free agency across the board in sports has made it tough for the fan to get super involved potentially with a team.
Yeah.
Now, you may love your team, but the team is always changing faces and changing players. So I'm not as engrossed as maybe I would be watching a group of guys that are together for 5 to 10 years.
Sure.
Back to the NBA, by the way, it's real simple. You just don't mess with Steph Curry. You don't mess with Klay Thompson. You don't mess with certain guys that are on the floor, and they're going to get different treatment. And Draymond Green's going to step up and protect his players. I think that's part of it, too.
Very true. All right, we're going to do NFL Fill in the Blank next in the Fast Lane on 101 ESPN. NFL Fill in the Blank here in the Fast Lane on 101 to ESPN. Mark's going to give us a statement. Dan, we have to finish said statement. Are you ready?
Can I make a quick announcement?
Sure.
Congratulations to my buddy Scott Ginger. He works at Anheuser-Busch, and he got a hole-in-one today.
No way.
So, Scott,
golf clap.
I don't know if your bosses knew you were playing golf. Now they do, but congratulations on the hole-in-one, and the unemployment line is right over there.
That's fantastic. Yeah, good call on that. Yeah.
That's awesome, though. So, Scott, congratulations.
For sure.
That's all I had for
you. Did you go through the windmill or
into the hippo's mouth?
Yeah.
I got
job.
you. I'm
nice
following
job
you
there, Scotty.
That's awesome.
All right, let's get this going. Blank is the team to look out for in the second half.
Blank is the team to look out for in the second half. Yeah, Texans, that's a good one. Yep. Yes,
how good is C.J. Stroud?
He is already seemingly a veteran.
Oh, my gosh. He's so much fun to watch. What he's done the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago was unbelievable. Then he followed it up with being pretty darn impressive this weekend, and they're getting better and better, and he's got some weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad for a first-year kid and a new coach and basically a team that was left for dead.
No doubt. Mine's Marsh's Minnesota Vikings. They've got the best quarterback in the league right now in Joshua Dobbs. Justin Jefferson will be back, I would imagine, this week, right, Marsh? I mean, he was.
I thought he was going to miss this week.
So I've seen
missed last week.
He could play Sunday. Probably won't. I personally, I'd rather just wait.
They don't need him. They got Jordan Addison. They got Joshua Dobbs' running ability.
Don't forget Brian Powell, T.J. Hawkinson.
You guys sit there and watch and go,
fantastic.
That guy's a rocket scientist.
Yeah, damn right. Yeah.
That Dobbs kid, he's a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Don't get him. We need him.
Browns had him in camp, decided we're going to go with Dorio, what is Thompson? We're going to go with him instead. The kid out of UCLA.
Not Brad.
Dorian Robinson Thompson.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. They chose him over Joshua Dobbs. And Arizona said, we don't need this guy. We got Kyler back. And they were right, because Kyler won too.
Yeah.
He did. He certainly
Joshua Dobbs, MVP, early MVP. I got the Vikings as the team to beat in the second half.
Blank
probably win out.
Well, okay. I wouldn't mind that. Blank would be better with a different head coach.
Chargers.
Buffalo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
They should not be this bad. Now, should Josh Allen be throwing this many picks? No, but this is who he
not.
But this is who he is.
Right.
So you're going to go down with him. He's a gunslinger. He's Brett Favre part 2, except he hasn't won.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I just think that they should be better than they are. There's too many weapons on that team for them not to be at least in playoff contention. And their schedule, I guess you could say they're in contention, but their schedule coming up is a gauntlet, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. I don't know if they make the playoffs. You agree?
I don't think they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they're the losses that they have suffered on defense have been too much to overcome.
Yep.
They're going to beat the Jets this weekend, but they got to go to Miami, and like you said, they've got some other tougher games coming up. So, yeah, that's a good one. Chargers for me. They've got the talent.
Man,
they're losing too many close games.
How good is Keenan?
Keenan Allen's unbelievable.
He's awesome.
That catch he made on that Monday night where he was midair and somehow made sure that he grabbed the ball as he was flipping.
Exactly.
For his it was a record-setting catch for him.
He's right behind Antonio Gates or something like that, or past Antonio Gates.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
Speaking of catches, though, we never talked about this yesterday, but the catch that, well, who was it? It was for the Broncos.
Oh, Cortland Sutton.
Yeah. That was unbelievable.
Yeah. When they showed that, I'm like, there's no way he got in. And then they showed, of course, the replays and stuff. Unbelievable. That was a great play by Russ, too.
It was.
For as much criticism as he is.
Have you looked at his numbers?
His numbers are very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
His numbers are very good.
He's not where he was.
He cost him some games, too. You know, that's the tough part of me giving Russ some credit. Like, he cost him the Jets game. He cost him. There's another game where he flat out, he fumbled when nobody's around him.
At what point do we start giving Sean Payton a little credit here for
I think it's coming.
the bad start, but then slowly but surely defense got better.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, you beat Kansas City. Oh, by the way, you win last week on Monday Night Football. I mean,
they've won 3 in a row now.
Yeah, against some pretty good teams, and you say maybe he's pretty darn good at what he does.
I was more excited.
And you've gotten more out of Russell Wilson than he got last year.
Certainly. I was more excited about the Broncos this year than I was a year ago because of Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Sean Payton knows what he's doing. You're right. It
no doubt.
Took them half the season, but now they're 4-5. They're right behind. They're right behind everybody in the wild card race.
Yeah,
they're not out of it.
No, they're right in the thick of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Next one here. Blank has the best chance at taking over the number 1 spot in their conference.
I would say the Lions.
That's where I was going to go
because of their schedule. They are right now. What are they? 7-1, 7-2, 7-2. They've got the Bears, the Packers, the Saints, the Bears, the Broncos, all winnable games. Then they face the Vikings in 2 of those 3 games. 2 of the last 3 games. They got the Cowboys in Dallas. I think that if you look at the Eagles, who are playing a first place schedule, who have the Chiefs coming up, the Bills, the Niners, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, a couple of wins against the Giants and Cardinals, but I think the Lions could supplant the Eagles.
Some of these national marquee games, meaning Monday Night Football, certainly the Thursday Night Football schedule.
So the Raiders and Jets, baby.
Who didn't want to see that? The Heidi game, part 2.
The Heidi game. Wow, that's a great poll.
That open, did you see it?
Yeah.
Was awesome.
Yeah,
they did a great job with that.
The Heidi game. For those that don't know, that was the infamous Monday Night Football game in which it was the Jets that came all the way back or the Raiders that came all the way back. I
think it was the Jets.
Jets came all the way back, but they flipped
to Heidi.
Yeah, some movie,
and they said NBC had the game, and so the switchboard back then exploded. With people saying, where is the rest of what happened? Where's this? This is pre-internet. You don't know what happened.
You don't know. It's not like you get the updates on your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was thinking that this, in terms of marquee games finally on a national stage and being just the single game going, so Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night, this may be the best Monday night coming up.
This is definitely the best Thursday night, too, because you got Ravens and Bengals.
Yeah, that's another great one.
Who's the Sunday nighter?
Vikings and Broncos.
All right,
that's not bad.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Certainly better than what it has been.
Absolutely.
Jets, Raiders.
That's terrible.
The Raiders and Jets, I feel like, have been on one of the primetime spots every week.
Yeah.
The Jets I get because Aaron Rodgers. The freaking Raiders. You get the Raiders.
So I asked you this before, and maybe you guys know the answer to this, though. When is the flex part of I don't know this stuff, but when the flex part of the schedule starts hitting?
It's not until late in the year. It's like week 15 or 14.
Well, I think they have a deadline to flex games. And I think it's coming up here soon. So they can flex those games before they actually happen.
Yeah, because you can't do it. I don't think you can do it like
flex the week of.
Yeah, week of. Right.
It's a great thing, though, that the NFL does.
Yep.
I mean, you talk about
a smart
marketing your product. That's about as smart as it gets.
Our last one here, Blank's quarterback play will ultimately be their downfall as they miss the playoffs.
Joshua Dobbs.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Sorry, Marshy.
No. Absolutely no chance.
You bought into the Dobbs bandwagon. You're on it. You're on that bandwagon.
Yeah, he is. The answer is the Falcons.
Well, they're not even in a playoff spot.
Okay, Marsh, you don't have to be cruel.
What about the Seahawks?
I got one, the Seahawks. Yeah, absolutely. Because Geno Smith is not playing well.
No, he's not.
The Seahawks are winning games, but he is not playing well.
Did you see that drive to win the game and the walk-off on Sunday?
Oh,
Come on.
That was brilliant against Washington, who has surrendered.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
A lot.
274 points and traded half their defensive line at the deadline. You're right, Dan. A great drive by Geno.
You're looking too far into this.
This is just a drive I wanted to talk about.
This is just common sense things that you're throwing at me. Come up with something better than this.
Fair.
This is BS.
All right. Let's get into the biggest question of the day, but it's going to go back to Skip and kind of something that he said about the Cardinals organization that I think a lot of people are like, yes, where is that gone? That's next on 101 ESPN. Now's a great time to head down to Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum and purchase your next vehicle. I say that because, well, we just did it. We just did that a couple of weeks ago. We bought a pre-owned Pathfinder that we love in the Stalter household. We just think the world of Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum. We checked out all of the options that they have online. When I say all the options, I mean they have over 700 vehicles on the lot in Herculaneum. They're getting new vehicles or pre-owned vehicles in all the time, and they've got cars and trucks and SUVs and vans priced to sell because they get the inventory in all the time. Unbelievable financing options available. Couldn't come at a better time when you're looking at some of the rates and where the rates are right now. Again, unbelievable financing options. I would say this. I think Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum, I think they've got the best financing department anywhere. No money down, no payments for 90 days, 0% APR for up to 5 years. Plus, enter to win a brand new Polaris ATV and grab a hot dog just for stopping by. No purchase necessary in that. And let me say, the hot dog's pretty good. Got the car serviced not too long ago. Also had a couple of hot dogs, I'll be honest. A couple of hot dogs at Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum. Tell them Stalter sent you when you go down there again. Auto Centers Nissan Herculaneum.
ESPN Sports Center.
I'm Andrew Marsh. It's time for a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Blues won 5-0 last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They'll be back in action tomorrow night, taking on the San Jose Sharks. Pregame starts at 8:30. Puck drop is at 9:30. You can catch all the action right here on 101 ESPN. We talked earlier today with Jeremy Rutherford, our Blues insider from The Athletic. If you missed that interview, make sure you go to 101ESPN.com or check out the free 101 mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. Also, Mizzou ranked number 9 in the nation with the college football playoff rankings. We talked about Mizzou earlier in the show. And also, congratulations to former Cardinal player and bench coach Skip Schumacher for winning the National League Manager of the Year. We'll dive more into that and with our biggest question of the day. I'm Andrew Marsh, and the Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, independent American standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
It's time for the Fast Lane's biggest question of the day.
With Dan McLaughlin filling in for Jamie Rivers, I'm Anthony Stalter. Here's Andrew Marsh with the biggest question of the day.
All right, gentlemen, we talked earlier in the show about Skip Schumacher and him winning the National League Manager of the Year. Skip gave credit to the Cards for drafting him and for learning about winning and sustainable culture. How much has that changed in that regard?
So, Dan, I was thinking about this when I read those quotes from Skip. I think a lot of Cardinals fans would say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's the Cardinal way thing. But now you look, one season doesn't change that. But as I've said, I don't think last year was an aberration. I think there was a buildup. And I think some of the things that we've talked about, maybe not having that pitching lab or maybe not spending to the same degree as certainly the Dodgers or other teams when it comes to your scouting. I wonder how much of what Skip was talking about has been lost a little bit along the way.
Yeah, you got me thinking.
And I don't know when that changed either. Maybe you have a better handle on it since you know.
I would look more minor leagues.
Yeah.
So when Skip was coming up, George Kissel was there. I mean, George Kissel had his hands all over the generations of players that came through the minor league system. I mean, his fingerprints are all over the quote-unquote Cardinal way. That's somebody to think about. I was thinking about Mark DeJean, who was with the Cardinals organization for decades in the minor leagues. I was thinking about Mike Schilt. Mike Schilt was a manager for 17, or at least a coach for 17 to 20 years in the minor leagues. Those guys are gone now. And so you're trying to rebuild and redo some of your coaching staff down in the minor leagues. I think it's more about that than maybe it is. Well, let me say this. It goes hand in hand with having Tony La Russa there from 1996 through 2011. I mean, that's a long time to have one guy as the voice, and Dave Duncan, Joe Patini. You had all these different guys that were a part of the organization, but they were there. Mm-hmm. So that's sustained. That's the voice that you're hearing. And they all were on pretty much the same page. Tony wanted it taught this way. Dunk wanted sinkers and ground balls, and this is how he wanted it taught. So it was taught from that level of major leagues all the way down to the minor leagues. Sure. That's sustained. And I think they've got some of those guys now, like Gary LaRocque has been around a long time around their minor league system. I'll throw a name out there that I think is a guy that I think could be critical on the coaching side of things, and that's Jason Isringhausen.
Yeah.
I think he's
awesome.
He's great, and he can relate to these young players. He's been through the ups and downs on and off the field, surgeries, coming back from that's what I mean by off the field. I mean trying to rehab these surgeries and doing all the things. He's had 18 of them. When you think you're done in your career, think about being a closer. Either you're the hero or you're the GOAT. Mm-hmm. Things like that. So I think they're getting back to some of that stuff. But when you take some of those big names that have been there for decades and try to replace them, it's not an easy thing to do.
No,
hopefully that
all.
Makes sense.
No, it does. It does make sense. And it's kind of a tricky situation because you know what George Kissel and the model was like, but you also, if you're hiring new people, and there is a cycle that has to happen with your hirings, when you're hiring new people, you also want them to be themselves, because if they're trying to be somebody like a George Kissel, we see this in the NFL. Matt Patricia is not Bill Belichick. He tried to be Belichick. He's not. McDaniels tried to be Belichick. It doesn't work that way. So if you're the Cardinals, you can't you can't force somebody to say, you're going to do it this way.
Yeah.
If they're not comfortable with that. But you also know it worked for you.
Yeah.
So how do you cultivate that so that you can keep that winning culture in place in your minors and still evolve?
Don't you think, too, some of it comes down to, and these people I just mentioned were all great teachers of the game to where they actually had time with the player to try to develop them.
Yeah.
And now it just seems like guys are just rushed to the big leagues, and we've talked about this before, to where are they really understanding how to play the game?
Sure.
And then when they get here, the game is really fast on them. Like Jordan Walker at times this year, you could tell in the outfield the game was fast.
Yeah.
It just wasn't slowing down for him. Now at the plate, even that happened, and he made adjustments. In the field, it was constantly trying to catch up. And that happens. So I just think, like in the minor leagues, you get a little bit more of a grace period to work with a player and develop the culture that you've seen at the major league level, and trying to make sure it's there in the minor leagues too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
Well,
something to think about.
It's going to be interesting moving forward here.
Who won the Cy Young? Blake Snell?
Blake Snell. Congratulations to Blake Snell. He's I read off the stat, and I don't think I have it on my phone anymore. He's like the 6th player to win in both leagues. 7th player to win in both leagues.
Let me think.
Blake Snell won it.
Pedro did it.
Yeah,
Randy Johnson did it. Let me see if I get this right.
I'll pull it up while you're doing it.
Because it's got to be modern day guys for the most part, because players didn't change leagues, much less teams. So I'll go Pedro, Randy Johnson, probably Roger Clemens, Roy Halladay, because he won with Toronto and Philly. Max Scherzer did, because he won with Detroit and won with Washington. That's 6. Who am I missing? Is there? If you said 7, I'm missing somebody, and I won't get it. But that's 6 of them right there.
Boy, that's pretty impressive off the top of your head. Okay.
Is that right?
MLB pitchers who have won both NL and AL Cy Young awards.
I think Pedro did it in both leagues.
Pedro Martinez. Yep. People forget Pedro started his career at the Dodgers. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Roy Halladay, Max Scherzer.
Got that.
You are losing somebody who's older. He's an older pitcher.
Oh, Gaylord Perry.
Gaylord Perry. You nailed it. Yep. Nice job.
Thank you.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
That should be that's 7, right?
Yeah, Gaylord Perry, Pedro Martinez, 7. Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Roy Halladay, Max Scherzer, and now Blake Snell.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's pretty good.
Who wins in the AL? Guess we'll find that out soon.
Yeah. That's one way, by the way. We're thinking about how you keep the game front and center. You extend these awards. Okay, tonight's the NL. All right, tomorrow's the AL.
Right.
Okay. Didn't you think it was odd how they did the Gold Gloves?
Yes. That was very odd.
Like on a Sunday night football game?
Right.
Like, you could have done American League first baseman. Tomorrow we'll go National League first baseman. At least somebody says something about the game.
I'm not doing anything on a Sunday.
No.
You know? NBA, I got one game on.
No.
And it's Portland and somebody.
Exactly.
You know?
Do they have an award show?
I don't think so.
You talking about Major League Baseball?
They may, like MLB Network might be doing something.
They do
right
something.
Now.
But they don't have like where the players actually go up, accept their award.
The New York Writers Baseball Dinner.
Oh, they do that?
They normally, that's not to say that every guy's going to show up, but it's been kind of commonplace that was like the really big one of the baseball writers dinners. They have a huge one here in St. Louis. Not a lot of them aren't around anymore, but in New York they'll do the MVP guys and Cy Young guys and stuff, and they'll show up there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I just wish that was
televised.
Yeah. I'd like to see these stars talk.
A little drama to it too.
Who would you have host? There isn't like a Peyton Manning type, is there, that could host it?
No. Yeah, I'll tell you who would. And I know you'll appreciate this, but Amsinger would be incredible.
Yeah. He'd be funny.
Yeah, he would. Especially if it's a MLB TV.
I mean, a former player, though.
Ooh. A former player to do it.
Or, you'd have to have a former player because Peyton's.
I could be biased here. I think Adam Wainwright would do a great job.
He would do a very good job.
That would be the guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You give him like some of the guys to give him some copywriters, you know what I mean? Give him some funny jokes and stuff. He could deliver it.
He could do it really well.
And it's topical too because he just retired, did some games on Fox for the playoffs.
I could see Waino being the type that if you did a Waino cast, he'd be really good on that.
Yeah.
He'd be very good.
He's got great stories and he's He's very affable.
So speaking of the Manning cast, if they did, I know A-Rod does the same thing with
Michael K.
Mm-hmm. I was watching Monday Night Football, and I really wasn't into the game. Like, the game was a tight game, but it was like, it's like 9-6 or whatever.
Last night, the Broncos and Bills?
Monday night,
Or 2 nights ago?
And I turned the Manning cast on. I actually sent you a picture. I had both TVs synced up. And I was listening to Eli, Peyton, and they had Patrick Mahomes on. And they were just talking football. Like, talking quarterback stuff that, like, I love football. I had no idea what they were talking about.
Unbelievable.
I saw it too.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I have no clue what they're talking about in terms of like the defensive schemes and all this stuff. But whatever they're saying has locked me into this game. And I ended up watching the entire Manning cast. Yeah, I have not done that from start to finish.
Sure.
And I ended up watching the entire game. It ended up being a really entertaining game.
I think when you start to understand the schemes,
oh, it's awesome.
It's on another level. I used to sit up at in the press box with Kerry Davis and Michael Young and sit up there and pick those guys' brains. Because I would say, I'm like, all right, I would know a lot of the basic stuff, but I'll say, okay, why is, is that a cover 2 match? And like, no, it's not. It's actually watch this. And they'll give me one player.
Yeah.
So watch this. He moved. Now it's cover 3. They're showing cover 2, then white. They'll flip to
They
cover
just
3.
see the game at a different level.
They studied it.
Yeah.
They studied it. They know it. They know it inside and out. But I got quite the education from
I
those
bet
two
you
guys,
did.
man.
It's amazing.
Kerry's great opening drive. Listen every morning.
Yeah.
All right. Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl champ.
Kerry Davis.
That's right.
Okay. We've got what you missed, criticisms, compliments next with Dan McLaughlin here on 101 ESPN. missed anything from today's show, you can download the podcast at 101ESPN.com or your 101 ESPN mobile app. It's all brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers. We had BK on for the first hour of the show. Talked a little Blues hockey following their 5-0 victory yesterday. Talked about Mizzou jumping up in the rankings 14-9 and how they're set up perfectly to head to a New Year's Eve bowl if they can get it done here against Florida and Arkansas.
Are they the highest rated 2-loss team?
I believe they are.
Does that sound right?
That does sound right.
I was looking at that today, and I think I'm right about that.
That has to be correct because I think Ole Miss was 10th, I think, last week, and now they have dropped. You are correct.
Wow, the highest ranked 2-loss team in the country.
And they're ahead of Louisville, who is a 1-loss team.
I would agree with that.
I would too.
I would agree with that.
I am interested to see if Louisville gives Florida State a game in the ACC title.
Man, Florida State has not, and I watch them all the time. They're one of my favorite teams to watch. They have not played to the level that you would think a top 4 team in the country would be playing at. I mean, the Miami game was close this past weekend.
The Miami game was tight. The Pittsburgh game was tighter than it should have been. Duke, if you look at that one, they won by 18. But that, I know, Dan, you watched that game.
I love the QB from Duke. He's awesome.
Riley Leonard he's
a good player.
Nobody's talking about Riley Leonard.
No,
and he's going to be in the NFL. He's got to get healthy. But
that ankle.
I'm with you on the Florida State. So we talked about Mizzou. We did prove me wrong, and whether or not teams have been snake bitten by the Rams model of, hey, go out and get a veteran quarterback like Matthew Stafford. Browns with Deshaun Watson, Jets with Aaron Rodgers, and the Broncos with Russell Wilson.
So I've only been with the guys for 2 hours, and I was trying to think of the worst contracts that you could have in the last 5 years. Deshaun Watson's got to be up there now.
I think he's one of the worst contracts in sports history.
You think it's that much, huh?
Because it's a guaranteed contract in a cap sport.
Wow.
I mean, think about it. Like, even bad contracts in baseball, they are guaranteed, but there's no cap.
We had a lot of people chiming in on the text line saying Bobby Bonilla.
Yeah, that one hurt. They're still paying that, right? It's all that deferred money. Doesn't he show up one day, spring training, Bobby Bonilla?
No, it's Bobby Bonilla Day. It's every
June 1st, right?
June 1st, I think is right.
That's
I was either going to say that or July 4th. It doesn't matter, but every day or every once a year he gets like $1.2 million in deferred, and it all started on the Madoff thing.
Oh, really?
It was from the Madoff deal where the ownership of the Mets deferred, thinking they had all this money coming in, and they clearly didn't. And away you go. The tentacles of Mr. Madoff.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's baseball.
Second hour was just Marsh and I. We talked to Jeremy Rutherford. Talked about Chief making adjustments. Same thing with Army. And then Dan joined us for the last 2 hours. Talked a little Cardinals baseball. Went all over the place in the Sports Six-Pack.
Yes, we did.
And then
we also established
fill in the blank.
I never stay on point.
No. But you know you've admitted that.
No, you really don't,
You've
Dan.
admitted that, Dan.
I'm terrible at it. I got, a little ADHD. I'm all over the place.
That's what this show is about.
I am all over the place. My mind goes everywhere.
One moment we could be talking about the Cardinals, the next
George Kissel to
dinosaurs.
Jim Hanifin. I don't know. There's probably a connection there. They went to some banquet back in '72.
Certainly they did. Had a good time, too.
Sure did.
Marsh, what do you got for criticisms and compliments? Although, let me throw a little shout out to our guy BT. He said, "You fine gentlemen sound amazing. Nice work." So that's a nice compliment. Thanks,
you, BT.
BT will be with us on Friday.
BT
Dan's
was
back with us tomorrow.
Great to work with. I love working with BT.
BT's phenomenal.
He's such a good dude.
He is.
We got one from the 314. "Quote unquote, people are upset. That equals Lisa is upset." And we've established no one is safe on here, so we have some listener-on-listener crime going on. So anytime we say, I guess, some people might be upset if we say this, or some people might not like what the Cardinals are doing.
They're saying Lisa.
They're saying people equals Lisa.
Do you guys?
Lisa's very passionate, but she's not alone in that.
I've met Lisa before.
Yeah, she's very nice.
She's come out to some of the remotes, and I think I met her on opening day one day, and she couldn't have been any sweeter and brought some donuts.
Lisa, on that note, 2 years ago, we were down in Illinois.
We were in Illinois at
Copper Fire?
Yes.
Copper
It was
Fire.
for the Blues season, or not the season opener, but
Yeah.
it was, the kickoff the year.
So we're at Copper Fire. She works right there. She works close to that, not at Copper Fire, but she stopped by and brought all of us some goodies, and also had it was close to Halloween. She had all the kids Got some bags of candy for the kids.
And none of them had anything wrong with them. All the candy was good.
No,
okay.
Lisa's
Your kids are standing
sweet.
still?
They're growing just fine.
Lisa, it's a joke. I know you would laugh at that.
Absolutely, she would. She absolutely would.
Last thing here from Swan. Great show today, guys. Love the football and baseball talk. Unfortunately, I must agree, Gino is playing like a bum for my Seahawks. We should have gotten Dobbs instead. Have a great day.
Gino had a great season last year. Absolutely deserved that contract.
Yes, he did.
To Swan's point, no, he's not playing well. Congratulations, by the way, goes out to Yankees ace Garrett Cole. He won his first Cy Young Award, unanimous fashion. Led the AL in ERA, WHIP, and innings pitched. So Garrett Cole, AL Cy Young Award winner. Dan's going to be back with us tomorrow. Thank you, Dan.
You got it, guys.
For Dan McLaughlin and Andrew Marsh, I'm Anthony Stalter. See you.